What a quality set we're starting off with. VortiX up against Beasty. Dry Arabia in the first game immediately just promises so much action right off the bat, right? Like, we got Delhi up against Malians.
Yeah, and we talked about off camera a little bit. We talked about how these games would kind of go just like in general. With this first one, Delhi versus Malians, I'm not expecting much different, but you're expecting a lot of fast-paced stuff here. You're expecting hopefully some feudal shenanigans. We know VortiX as being that aggressive player. This is when kind of rock meets a hard place where VortiX gets to be this aggressive player, trying to dive in and feed all that kind of stuff. Beasty is more known for hanging out, letting the advantage come to him, wouldn't you say?
Typically, that's how it goes, but I think recently we've seen Beasty overall just even expand his playstyle a little bit, go into more of like a early aggression, more for like timing-oriented playstyle. It's very interesting because the current meta definitely forces you to kind of adapt in many situations. Like, we got this pro scout meta in at the moment that a lot of players kind of like evolve their strategies around, and it can be quite potent. Not having to move out onto the map at all for like the first 20 minutes of a game with your villagers, not having to go for that farm transition. Means that there's always going to be a lot of early aggression when it comes to military units, a lot of interaction just between militaries out on the field. That's going to be interesting, especially in a match with Mali and Delhi, where typically, or at least previously in previous metas, you would say, or at least usually the way it goes, is Mali, they can find themselves getting overrun quite often. I don't feel like that's going to be the case here necessarily. We've seen the game between Beastie and Marine Lord where it appeared to be that way, and then it just switched on its head completely.
Now, let the record show, I was not the first person to say pro scouts on this stream. I know last time, it was just about every game we were like, yeah, there's pro scouts really good. Pro scouts, and they're so professional. No, I didn't say it first, but now that we addressed the professional in the room, it's something to talk about, because you're right. It's super important. Getting that stuff, getting all of those deer really into that town center, making sure that your food is safe for a civ like Delhi that has to worry about getting those food resources all the way out on the map, like berry patches, all that kind of stuff. It's a really nice niche that they figured it out. Now, Crackety, I want to take a look really quickly because I saw some messages in chat about it. Let's talk about the bans. I see Order of the Dragon banned on VortiX's side. What do you now? Me personally, I think Order of the Dragon is actually in a good spot, but I'm curious to know what your opinion is.
I think Order of the Dragon is very interesting overall. It's quite different from how you are meant to play HRE. And we know VortiX, he really enjoys Order of the Dragon. He himself put them into S tier multiple times in his own like tier list. And I wouldn't quite put them in S tier, but I think anything lower than B tier would give them disservice. I think they're a very comfortable like mid-A tier civilization at the moment. Mainly because I think like players started to experiment around a little bit more with just how the optimal way is to play OTD. And I think the most optimal way to play them is to just spam as many units out as you can. If you're in a situation ever where with OTD you have a similar army count than your opponent, you know you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too. I mean, I've seen a little bit of a shakeup from Order of the Dragon going with this mine work thing that's like Aachen with some professional scouts, survival techniques, that kind of stuff. It could definitely play in, but we're not gonna see it on VortiX side, maybe on Beastie's side. The timer's run out. The stalling is over. We're getting in to the series 1 of 2, VortiX versus Beastie, game number 1. Cracky, let's jump right in. Let's go. Everybody get hyped. In the chat, game number 1. Oh my god, I'm so excited. VortiX playing as a Delhi Sultan in the color red, spotting in the north side, and we have Beastie playing as the Malian, spawning on the south side in the color yellow. So we talked about this matchup just a little bit. Cracky, I remember the old days, right, before this kind of pro scout stuff, right, where Delhi would literally just run all over the Malians. It seems like with Malians, they do have some kind of counter to pro scouts having their own warrior scouts. It seems like it's one of the best ways to counter.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking at Beasty's opening here at the moment with the Marlies. I'm a little bit curious because we are seeing a lot of additional wood being gathered. So I think we might actually be seeing a full pit mine opening here from Beasty, which typically is interesting because it kind of like delays your military production timing a little bit, which can be punished quite heavily by the Delhi. So BC, he's gonna really have to like weigh his options. And I, like it's kind of interesting. Like BC actually practiced a lot with VortiX, so they're kind of like practice partners, right? I think in the last interview, yeah, BC did mention that he's been practicing with VortiX. We got like two players that played against each other a whole bunch of times that are now going to face off against each other here.
And that's what gets some of the fun, right? Because then you're starting to metagame each other, right? So you've had this experience, I'm sure you have, Cracky. When you play on the top of the top ladder, you probably find the same people 2 or 3 times in a row because obviously there's not that many players, Cracky, that are as good as you are, right? So you need a good elo matchup, right? Now, when you have that ability and you see that, you can kind of pick up on what your opponent is doing a little bit. You choose how they play different civilizations, right? You kind of have an idea of how VortiX is going to play Delhi and Beasty playing Malian, so they might go for a little bit unorthodox.
Maybe, but thinking that it's definitely not unorthodox here, he's going to be the Dome of Fate coming in here from VortiX.
Yep, pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
5 on it instead of 4, though. Isn't the usual 4?
Yeah, I mean, 5 makes sense, right? Because the sooner you get the Dome of Faith up, the better it is going to be for you because you're able to get the research in much quicker, and also just you save 130 resources per minute, basically, with the Dome of Faith. Manza Quarry gives you 75 resources per minute, 130 for the Dome of Faith. So if you get it up a little bit quicker, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, just getting that first scholar out because we know what the Dome of the Faith does, right? Those scholars are a little bit cheaper. I guess they get their robes from the clearance rack, I would imagine, just because of how cheap they are. And you have the ability to start pumping out those scholars, but they take a little bit longer.
God.
Right?
Look at that!
God.
Look at the production value! We get a sheep counter! Oh my god. I didn't think we were gonna get this one. I didn't see this one until now. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god!
So you guys can't see us right now, but I'm holding my hands to my head because I'm losing my marbles. Looking at this counter. 19 to 10 for VortiX. Oh, it's gone. 19 to 10 for VortiX. So it's looking like if he does, obviously he's going to go for something like Professional Scouts, I would imagine, out of that mill when Wheelbarrow is completed. But he's going to have some sheep back near his town center, delaying further getting those outside food patches that are easily raidable. So it's really good.
Tim, he's never going to leave his base. He is never going to... Nah, he's going to stay here. This is his retirement plan right now.
Yeah, he can just sit under a town center, get sheep, get deer for about 35 years, and collect his Social Security every month, I would imagine. So I think that was another American joke. I don't know if you guys get Social Security. But anyway, VortiX is going to be going with that Dome of the Faith, is continuously pumping those scholars out. And just from having those scholars, that's something that we didn't think about also. Obviously, they're going to help with research. But then you get to this point of the game where there's a battle, right? And then just 11 scholars pop out.
Oh, yeah. That can be so infuriating because scholars not only... Like, typically a scholar, they don't take bonus damage from anything, right? So it's kind of difficult to counter them straight up. Granted, they don't have armor, so normal archers and stuff like that just deals well against them. There's a technology that he can get in the Dark Age Piety, gives your scholars plus 40 health. And you get to the point where resource, or rather like HP as a resource, your scholars are actual just meat shields that you can put in front of your military and heal you up as well.
Yeah, it's such a catch-22, and I actually want to ask your opinion, because if somebody has a lot of scholars out here, as we're seeing that Donzo defend where those little houses are for Beasty, when you have that battle, are you targeting the scholars? Are you targeting the units? What are you usually going for?
It kind of depends, right? Like, if you have enough units to, at least enough of a backline to one-shot a unit, I feel like typically it might not be worth going for the scholars, because if you one-shot it, it can't get healed, right? If it's dead, it's dead. But if you don't have enough, or like if you can afford to, killing the scholars is definitely worth it, because not only are you depleting your opponent's just units out on the field, but you're also reducing the rate at which your opponent can get research in.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, usually we're going to see that pull a lot later when a lot of those resources actually come in, right? For VortiX, just because that Sanctity is going to get completed in probably about 10 to 15 seconds, all of those scholars are going to come in, and right when that thing gets completed, you're going to hear bong, 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 and all 3 sacred sites are going to start to get completed. And for Beasty, that's difficult because obviously he does have the warrior scouts for some mobility, but he's got the Donzos that aren't exactly mobile, so you kind of have to pick one.
There it is, sub 7 minute Sanctity timing. That is why he went for the 5 villagers on the age up. What are you gonna do about it, right? Like, you can't split your military 3 ways 7 minutes into the game. You've been in feudal age for less than 3 minutes. What are you gonna do about this?
And look at what Beasty has. Like, he's so worried about his base, right? Making sure that these houses aren't destroyed or any of that kind of thing. The Donzos are sitting back at home. You can see where Beasty's going. He's using some warrior scouts just in multiple areas, trying to make sure that that decap doesn't get completed absolutely ridiculously fast. But now VortiX switching over to a little bit of archers is going to help him out as well. And it's even effective against warrior scouts, those archers are. Don't sleep on those.
Yeah, archers, I mean, warrior scouts, they do start to become better against archers in Castle Age, because with the upgrade to veterancy, you do actually unlock some bonus damage on them against ranged units. Until then, though, no armor, no bonus damage. They're kind of like they're a professional warrior scout type unit where you want to just get the deer and mass a lot of them, and then it's similar to scholars, just like HP as a meat shield, HP as a resource with that unit. In Castle Age, you can do more stuff with them.
Yeah, because you would think on paper, like the warrior scouts, when using professional scouts, you would think the warrior scouts are going to be the best, but most of the things that you're going to make in feudal age actually do surprisingly well against those warrior scouts. Those Ghazi Raiders not excluded from that. So those Donzos are going to try to take that middle sacred site, but the left one just got captured. That right one's going to be a little bit difficult, though. It's definitely favoring Beasty all the way on that eastern side.
Yeah,
what fresh hell is this?
Oh, ow. VortiX, does he realize? He hasn't realized yet. Good thing that wheelbarrow's free. I want to say that. Good thing that wheelbarrow's free for the deli.
Oh my God, those guys, those villagers are really getting their steps in, let me tell you. And it just goes to show everybody does it, okay? You've done it before in your games. I've done it in my games. Crackety, I'm sure. Did you do it in yours? Please say yes.
Sure. I mean,
okay,
never
great.
Intentional, but stuff like that happens. But I think he did place a mill now, so should be fixed up here at this point in time. Pro Scouts now has also come in for VortiX. He's still got access to his deer, though I do see a couple of yellow blobs making their way over to his second deer spot. So potentially VortiX, he's gonna, at best, get like 1 deer spawn of his own. Like, that is so many warrior scouts. That entire deer camp is going to be gone in seconds.
Crackety, the villagers are still long distance gathering. You see that red Congo line?
Up there
to
do.
the north. I'm sorry. I mean,
that's not good.
I know you were talking about pro scouts, and that's really, really important. But like, those villagers are, I don't know what they're doing here. They probably have to salsa their way over to pick some more pomegranates. But warrior scouts are caught in harm's way. Like, what in the good graces are we doing?
I mean, there's stuff going on, right? And I get it, but that still hurts. That hurts a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because he's probably sitting there, right? He just used a market to buy 200 food, right? We saw it go up by 200. And
Where's my
VortiX is
food
probably
income?
like,
I'm not getting
why
enough
am I
food.
getting bottlenecked on food, right? What's going on here? Well,
I mean, BC sees it as well. He's gonna have to ask himself, oh my God, what's going on there? Is this some elaborate plan? I've practiced against this guy. There's no way this is happening right now. But it is, and it happens. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, absolutely. BC's got a pretty good army comp right now as the Malians with Donzos. He's adding some javelin throwers to kind of combat the archers. He's going to be using some sofas as well. Tell me your opinion on the sofas in feudal age. I know a lot of Malian players might be straying away from it because you don't have the imported armor, but that +3 damage to infantry, that little bit of bonus, is going to help against the archers for sure.
Well, sofas, typically, they're like a glorified... Oh my god, look at that cattle counter. Left side. Up to 4 out of 20.
Cow's counting his brothers out here. This was a production that I knew was going to happen.
Yeah. In regards to sofas, it's kind of weird, right? Like, sure, overall, they're good. They're very good. Like, they're kind of like a glorified horseman. The issue that I see here is Ghazi. They're also kind of glorified horsemen, but they cost a lot less.
Yeah, no,
God.
you're exactly right. And the sofa
can we
does
stop
count.
looking at
It's still happening. Oh my god.
Can we talk about the insane value that VortiX is getting out of Wheelbarrow right now?
He has another archer on the field because he didn't build the mill. Think about that for a second. So when you see in that battle, there's one archer left. It's going to be because VortiX didn't build that mill. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Beasty is starting to scale up his economy now. He does have that second pit mine. He does have villagers. Villagers he has. I mean, he is investing into cattle. I'm always counting them as like villagers in my head because they just generate a lot of resource overall. Like 1 cow, 25 resource per minute. That's almost a villager. That's like 75% of a villager.
Yeah, and you know, VortiX knows how to play against the Malians. You know, he's cow booming. We see the villagers in picture running. Those berries are going to spoil by the time they get to the mill, but they still, I guess somebody will eat them. I don't know. But he knows the right thing to do against the Malians, right? He's trying to take down a lot of those buildings, those pit mines, and all that kind of stuff that creates that passive income. But you can see Beasty's economy right now, 1,200 food per minute. I think we're going to see this military count start shifting towards Beasty's favor just because he's able to queue everything.
Man, every time I see that little shuffle going out there with the villagers, I'm like, oh my god, that's so much wheelbarrow value. Oh my god, Tim. So much wheelbarrow value.
Man,
it's insane.
They're going to have to do some, they're going to have to do some repairs on that wheelbarrow because, man, they are using it. They are definitely using it. And you would think because of the minimap, like you see the conga line going back and forth, you would think that's something. But again, at this part of the game, right, as VortiX has all 3 sacred sites, that sacred victory is starting to count down. We're at 9 minutes and some change. The points of interest that he has are crazy. You know, it's all 3 sacred sites. It's Beasty's base. It's where the pit mines are and all that kind of stuff. So obviously he's not really thinking about it. He's just assuming that's how much food he's getting. And it's also pretty impressive too that he was able to hang out in like the 800 per minute kind of thing with all of this going on. His military count is still very high. He's sitting at 80.
Yeah, 80 military, and it's not even that many scholars, right? Like, VortiX is actually actively investing his gold into more and more military units. We're now also seeing a switch into Spearmen. And Spearmen, against what Beasty has at the moment, is an excellent choice as a frontline. Cheaper than the Ghazi Raider, doesn't take bonus damage from the Javelin throws, acts as a very good frontline, and you also have a direct answer against the Donzos. So very, very good unit switch now from VortiX. And with the amount of gold that he's getting in just passively, it's going to be very good for him. Something else that's nice for VortiX inadvertently is because his villagers are walking in a conga line, this raid that I see that's about to be coming in from Beasty on the berries is going to get spotted out in time. And yeah, look at that. Already has the villagers halfway to his base. Big break.
You know, I mean, that's one of the cases where I don't even know if I would rate it at all. Because you're giving VortiX the attention that he wasn't there. But now, big fight coming in here. I think this is time where Beasty wants to take a fight against the Delhi Sultanate. Spearman is going to be making up that front line like you talked about and doing a pretty good job. The Sofas are just out for raiding. They're not making a front line here. The Ghazis are trying to find those javelin throwers in the line formation just to prevent any kind of overkill. But Beasty does not have enough for this. Oh my god, he's going to back up Crackety. VortiX can push the issue.
Definitely can. Spearman now at the front line means that you can't just A-move into them. You have to be really careful. And there we go, Spearman once again at the front line. The Donzos, they don't do not any real damage to them, while the archers will mow them down. They'll just jump inside the TC. Does add some nice bonus damage there to the military from Beasty, but just so much from VortiX that's coming in here. Spearman at the front line. They're not targeting the Ghazi Raiders and just mow them down. There's only 10-ish Donzos remaining, less than 10 javelin throwers. This is it.
You would think with that gigantic shield, they'd be able to shield themselves from a little bit of archer fire, but not really the case. Beasty did do a good job on that south side, though. There's a lot of Ghazis. that ended up going down. I kind of expected this battle to go even more heavily in VortiX's favor, but I think the Donzos kind of saved him on the back end because there were about 15, 20 Gazis over there, and they could have been raiding all day. Ends up only having 2 and a couple of spearmen as well. So VortiX definitely did some damage here, and the production's in front, so he could just sit and camp it.
That was also a lot of idle time now caused over on Beasty's side, right? Like, he's down to just 10 military units. Looks like he did manage to find some kills over on VortiX's side, but VortiX overall did find a little bit more. So overall, still looking good for VortiX. Up to 15 cattle behind all of this. We do have one of the sacred sites uncapped, though. But Beasty, I mean, I'm looking at the military graph, and I'm wondering, sure, you gotta deduct like 8 for VortiX due to the scholars. But this isn't like the most optimal situation that you're in, especially when VortiX is about to be able to click Castle Age. Oh, okay, never mind. We got some more villager kills. He still didn't build a mill.
Oh. I don't know. Like, is he just giving? Because we all talk about the deli being as good as it is. Did they just give? VortiX just chose to give it a handicap. That's what I think it is. Like, there's no way. There's no way he would have no knowledge in trying to figure that out. But Beasty trying to go for berries now on that north side, which relatively is not safe. His cows are completed. I would assume he's going to be trying to get his way to Castle Age. But this is the thing, Crackety, and there's a lot of situations where I feel like both of us and a lot of players in chat probably think about, it feels like if you don't make units, you're going to get overrun. But if you do make units, you're not going to be able to get to castle, so you're going to be tech disadvantaged. And Beasty's going to realize that. I think he realizes how far he's behind now that VortiX hit that Castle Age button.
Yeah, now in. I mean, VortiX, he's going to get the upgrades. He's going to get everything. I'm a little bit surprised he hasn't invested more into scholars behind all of this. This is some good idle time here that Beasty is forcing with just a couple of cavalry units here. Very good idle time, and Beasty isn't too far off of Castle Age himself. He's got 20 cattle, or almost 20 out there. So if he's able to click that button, get that age up in, he's going to be in a good position. Now it's all about just if VortiX is going to be actually able to secure the relics behind this. If he gets relics, he's going to get a very big advantage here long-term throughout the game. He's already going to be able to get a big advantage just by getting all the upgrades. Friend, not all the upgrades have been clicked. Is there a mill? There we go! That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and that went up in a blink of an eye, baby. That's what I'm talking about. A little bit of Wololo on the western side, but I'll tell you what, Crackety, I don't give a damn about that. He's got a mill. Buy his berries. Oh, my God. What a time to be alive. Now Beasty going up with that Grand Fulani Corral. And, you know, I get that he went up to try to get to Castle Age to VortiX to continue to improve on his advantage, but now the Malians are going to get this super impressive food boom because of these cows. Is this time for the Malians to catch up?
It definitely is. Like, looking at this now, like, Beasty's already at 1,200 food per minute. He's getting a lot of food in. Big upgrade as well for the Malians, or rather a big boost to them. All the veterancy upgrades only take 30 seconds and they're at half cost. Beasty's going to get all his upgrades in incredibly quickly. So VortiX, he's not going to get an advantage in over that, and Beasty is just really active overall with the sofas. Like, he's gotten so much value out of them so far in this game.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like those sofas helped bring him back into the game, or at least stall a little bit, right? Because after that first initial engagement, he definitely had to lick his wounds. He made VortiX worry about things like the gold mine, the wood line. He's sending more sofas in multiple different angles, and I'll tell you what, getting all of this idle time from wood, especially, and a little bit of food as well, just means those Castle Age units come out just that much slower. And now we're going to see Beasty really even up on that military count. He's going into Musafati as well, expecting those Castle Age heavy units.
Yeah, and we do have men-at-arms and lancers in here, so we'll have a suitable count for them. We're now seeing a switch into archers as well. Malians get some of the best archers in the game with that poison arrow upgrade, even able to take down very heavily armored units just by virtue of that poison. Well, there is a lot of them moving out to the berries. I'm surprised we haven't seen outposts on the berries yet. We're getting a wall instead.
This is the kind of thing and the reason why professional scouts is so important for the deli, right? I mean, the Malians can get it quicker, and with warrior scouts, so it becomes a little bit easier for them to get them. But VortiX, I don't think he got a lot of deer in this encounter. So
Yeah, he
he's
did.
going out for all of these berries, and it's going to prove to be an issue for him, creating a lot of idle time. Now, using those archers, remember those deli foot soldiers can make walls, and he looks like he's trying to shore up a little bit. I think he's trying to wait this out, right? Because this is Beastie's power spike as the Malians, right? So he's like, you know what? Just leave me alone for a little bit. I'll deal with you later.
The thing is, I don't think you can really wait out the Malian power spike because it's not really a spike because it doesn't go down. Like this food income, it's just gonna keep being at that minimum of like 1,000 per minute.
Oh yeah, and obviously it's gonna have no signs of slowing down, right? Because it's not like VortiX could send things randomly. It's not like how the Beastie could do with his sofas, right? He's sending sofas into like this wood line, to this berry patch, whatever, creating a lot of bit of idle time, and that's basically all of his food economy. VortiX can't do that on the other side. You can't send 9 or 10 sofas, Gazi Raiders, what have you, to try to take anything down because you're right next to the town center. You're right next to the production. It's over.
It's not just that. A lot of the income from Beastie isn't in the form of villagers. So even if you kill like 2, 3, 4 villagers, it doesn't really make a big difference here. We're looking at the upgrades, right, that are coming in from VortiX. There's still no eco upgrades in queue, and they're coming in really slowly. Like, usually we're used to Delhi at this point in time having like well over double-digit scholar count. We're up to 8 at the moment. A lot of them are probably also in production buildings.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he doesn't have the gold for it, right? He's got 5 relics. You know, all of them. He probably lost a couple scholars, of course, getting relics, and that just comes with the property, right? But yeah, definitely I would expect it. Now take a look at this military count while we've been talking for the past, I don't know, 3-4 minutes. Now we're even.
Ooh, I like this play. This is something that I see from VortiX a lot of times, is where now he's going to start going for these aggressive keeps inside of his opponent's base and take a stand from there on out. The issue is that his opponent, like Beastie at this point in time, he's got a good military force now to counter it. He's getting Siege in as well. He already has a Siege Workshop. We are starting to see Mangonels come in. Forward keep. Okay, this could be it. This is going to be like a do-or-die moment now for VortiX. Does he have enough is the question. I'm not sure. Honestly, this doesn't quite feel like it. 52 archers? There aren't even that many sofas, actually. Maybe this works?
Yeah, I mean, Beastie's got his own archers. Nice little flank over there on the back end where those archers are. Mangonel trying to hit the villagers. Remember, VortiX does have textiles being the Delhi Sultanate, so he might be able to. It's about 60%. Villagers, get your hammers out. Start knocking away at this. And these Mangonels are going to have to walk up and take more hits of those villagers. The Lancers and the Ghazi Raiders on the back end end up getting cleaned up because the Donzos ended up pulling them around. That is a Doubt keep. This is not AoE 2, but Lord Doubt smiles upon us, doesn't he?
Indeed he does. Now down to 48 villagers, 20 villager deficit, more like 40, 45 if you account for the cattle as well. And now VortiX, he's in a really, really tough place. Mangonel shots coming in as well. No real way for him to get that keep up. I'm not sure if he's pulling additional villagers now to try and get that up. A second Mangonel coming in. Yeah, that keep is nowhere near going on there.
What? Okay.
You can tell that there's some commitment going on.
Absolutely, and you can never ever say that VortiX does not have commitment issues, right? Because he's just pulling the boys. He doesn't even have the all 3 sacred sites, so it's not like there's a timer or anything, but doing impressively good with all of the splits that are here. This indirectly kind of avoids overkill as well from some of these archers. So they're doing the best they can to try to take down these Mangonels, but most likely only doing 1 damage a pop. Now with all of those villagers, yes, this keep might go up, and I think it will. It's going to be at about 2/3, maybe 70%. But Beastie can just move, right? He has a nice wood line on the western side. He has another small bushel over there to the west as well. So yeah, it made your villagers move away from the keep, but what actually did it do?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the biggest impact, but we're getting this immediate transition now into Siege. So that is typically what VortiX wants to do now, right? Like you get that Siege Workshop in, you put a Scholar inside that Siege Workshop, you're able to get Siege in very, very quickly. What's the reaction here from Beastie? It's going to be a lot of stables. He's going to get a lot of cavalry in, and cavalry with the Sofa, with imported armor, they get a lot of pierce armor. They can dive keeps. I'm looking at the income right now for VortiX. It is not looking good.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, he does have 33 villagers, so, like, I didn't expect it to be impressive. But most of them went up to get keep up, right? So they weren't really doing anything. His food, he's sitting at a whopping 0. He's getting a trebuchet, but it's a good thing he can't feed a piece of wood because it would be starving right about now.
Yeah. It's kind of incredible how this game went on, because I feel like VortiX, at the point in time where he... Oh my god, he's sending villagers out to the berries once again. They're getting found out. At the point in time where he dived BC space into feudal age, I felt like it was over. I think VortiX, if he pulled maybe the scholars as well, he could have stuck around there for a lot longer. He kind of lost a couple too many Ghazi Raiders there as well towards the end against the Donzos. I think he could have pulled them away again there. Now he's in a very rough spot.
You did, like, in that particular situation, you did damage to his army and all that kind of stuff. I would definitely think about pulling those Ghazis around, try to do some raiding instead of being in the fight, right? You could take down some villagers, some pit mines, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I really don't want to, especially against the Malians on feudal age. I don't want to let off the gas. You know, you don't want to let them get that corral up and all that kind of stuff, because now Beasty... not only is he sitting on 71 villagers, which is fantastic, but he's consistently getting about 1,000 food per minute. And I don't know if he actually has any villagers on food at all.
Probably not. He's only just now pulling villagers over to the berries. Yeah, at 1,000 food per minute, you can be pretty sure that he doesn't have any villagers on food. Archer's now going for a flank around, but there's mangonels, there's sofas, and these sofas don't take any damage from the archers. Very little damage going through. They get 7 pierce armor, 9 damage from the archers. The archers would do more damage against knights.
Oh, yeah. And,
there it is.
VortiX is not going to be continuing this game any further. That keep goes down, and so do his Game 1 hopes and dreams. So it's going to be a 1-0 for Beasty now, starting as the Malians against the Delhi. And take a look at some of those resources. I mean, not only... Obviously, those villagers got pulled at the end, right? So those resources started to slow down a little bit. But you're showing how important it is for the Malians to get all of that passive income, all of that food, all of that safe food. VortiX didn't have them.
And look at that graph that we got there with the economy count. We actually do see a dotted line there signifying the amount of cattle that's being added in on top of the normal villager count there for Beasty. So he was looking very good there all throughout when it comes to the economy. VortiX, he did a great dive there underneath the base, underneath the TC in BC space. I feel like if he just committed a little bit more, that could have potentially been it. Gotta take a look again at that, the trip.
Oh my god, it is. It sucks. It really does, because I see myself in it. I've done this before, you know. And after like 1 or 2 minutes, somebody in chat tells me, and I'm embarrassed. I just want to shut the stream off, you know, but you continue to play. VortiX obviously is going to continue doing that. This is a fight that really worked out in his favor.
Yeah.
You know, with all of these Ghazis. He had 44 archers and 27 Ghazis, man. Like, that's so much. These Donzos are going to get peppered down pretty easily. And I feel like as far as micro goes, you kind of use the Ghazis like you would a knight or any of that kind of stuff, where you kind of force the Donzos to come up and do something so the archers can pick you off and then just back up.
Yeah. And yeah, this fight was really great for him. He did a lot of damage there to the army and then able to push in even deeper. Like, just so much military going down at this point in time for Beasty. And VortiX, he did a great read earlier with just committing a lot to that feudal age play. I think at this point in time, he kind of like looked at his goal and was like, hey, maybe I can go up. Sometimes these kind of reads, they make sense when you're in the middle of a game. But looking back at it, if he just recommitted into feudal age, get some rams in potentially as well now, or just stick around the back with the archers, take down more and more villagers, deny wood income. That could have been his way to end the game here. Instead, game gets dragged out a little bit longer, and that's not something that you want to happen up against the Malians. Just that passive income. Great dive here on the backside with a flank, and once again, like, these fights overall, when it comes to the engagements, when it comes to the angles from which VortiX is taking these engagements, they look great, they look convincing. But the macro behind it, it just wasn't there.
You know, I mean,
the game plan.
Obviously, we talked about that first engagement being as good as it was, right? But you saw a lot of Ghazis on the south side. I wish I had a little, like, teleprompter so I can kind of, like, circle it and highlight it around. But on the back end, he was trying to. Cow's telling me no because he probably thinks I would like draw a penis or something. But on the bottom side, a lot of those Gazis went around to try to flank those javelin throwers, and having a nice little layer of those Donzos around the backside, they weren't getting targeted by the archers either. They were getting hit by, you know, they were taking down javelin throwers and all that kind of stuff. So proved to be rough. Game number 2 might be a different story for VortiX. He's got to lick his wounds and get back in here. Byzantines is a good civ to do that with.
Yeah, we're gonna be seeing Byzantines up against the Rus, and you know what the Rus kind of like to do? Or at least recently, they like to make a certain unit, and they like to make a lot of them. It's gonna be the Cav Archer. Byzantines has the answer for that, but if we are gonna find that answer, that's the question of the game here. We're jumping into our game number 2. Beasty, playing as the Rus in the color yellow, against VortiX in the color red, playing as the Byzantines.
Yeah, I remember, you know, before the whole professional scouts thing kind of started, it felt like it was Byzantine's game to lose, you know? As long as nothing really bad happened, the Byzantines would have been pretty okay. But things kind of shifted a little bit, right? Things kind of shifted a little bit, especially with professional scouts, because Byzantines, one of the rare civilizations in this day and age that don't really care as much.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really... They got their own game plan, right? Like, sometimes other civilizations, they have to adapt their game plan. Byzantines, they go for their thing. They do what they do. And they don't really care. But speaking of things that you don't really care about, we're gonna see Pro Scouts again. Why? Because we got double hunting cabin. That is like one of the key indicators that Pro Scouts is gonna happen here on Boardland.
Oh, yeah. No, you're exactly right. Now, remember, on Baldland, you only get those small little wood bushels to put your hunting cabins, and that's where Beasty did. He's got a couple wood lines that are a little bit in the back as well, but making sure that you get that second one, right, that second hunting cabin, making sure that you're getting that little bit of gold trickle, plus with the bounty counter and production, making this so good, making us look so good up here. And we're seeing that bounty counter. Now, remember, if you are coming back to the game and you haven't seen a lot of this tournament, remember that the bounty has been changed just a little bit. For the Rus now, it's 10 food that you gather from a hunted resource, deer, boar, and sheep. You get 1 gold for every 10.
It's a nice trade offer. You get food, and then you also get gold. It's a win-win. Grainery now coming in for VortiX. So expected play, right? Like, you want to get that olive oil, you want to bathe in that olive oil, just really get that skin glistening.
Yeah, I'm trying to, honestly, man, if I'm VortiX, I'm trying to grease the hell up. You know, I'm trying to get all slimy so Beasty can't get his hands on you, right? So getting those units now, remember there's mercenary contracts, there's also those neutral trading posts if you wanted to put a merc house over there. So what, from your perspective against the Rus, what kind of unit are you going for in that contract? Because I could see with Beasty going into Castle Age, going with the Horse Archer, of course. I guess you could expect that until proven otherwise. What do you want to make as a mercenary unit?
I mean, one unit that immediately like jumps out here, right? That just kind of has to be the Javelin Throwers. Not only because you do a lot of bonus damage up against the Cav Archers, but also because you have more mobility than normal archers. You're going to be able to react a lot quicker than you would be with longbows. Not just that, but as the game goes on, you will also get access to the camels. And with the camels, you are going to have camel on ease working for you as well. That's just a great synergy that can come in here for the Byzantines up against the Rus.
Yeah, you know, it's really frustrating when you're playing a civ like Rus or French or Jeanne d'Arc, because a lot of your units and your powerhouse unit happens to be on horseback, right? So if you end up going with those camel riders, and you could even go with, you know, the golden horns, you could spit out a couple camels for free and what have you. It means everything that Beasty tries to make ends up getting spooked a little bit. You know, the horse archers with a couple base damage, their base damage is their bread and butter. You don't really get that. The knight also being one of the worst things you want to put in front of a camel rider. So I definitely get it. Now that Golden Gate is going to be coming up for the Rus at about the 420 mark. Blaze it. And we'll be seeing professional scouts now. I would expect BC to sell a little bit of that wood, the wood that he has, to get a little bit of gold and start picking them up.
Yeah, that should be the reaction here. We are already seeing VortiX pump some resource into those limit knights, so it's gonna have some ways of denying the Pro Scout. Pro Scout now in queue. Beasty also with a second hunting cabin is gonna be able to not just only get Pro Scout upgrade in, but also at the same time is gonna be able to get some more scouts out for that Pro Scout. And once again, look at that beautiful graph there, telling us that this time Beasty, he's been blessed by the sheep god this game.
Dude, the sound effect too. Hearing that nice sheep right during that counter, man, this is work of
Nice
beauty.
sheep.
We don't. I'll tell you what, Crackety, we pale in comparison to production, to the observers. Cow and Vodka do such a good job of making us look good up here. And this sheep indicator is being a blessing. Now, Roos, you kind of expect them to get a little bit more sheep because of how many scouts they get. Byzantines going a little bit retro and only having 1 scout. So having those 3 scouts in the beginning is going to make it a little bit easier. Now he's got 4. He's adding a 5th. VortiX getting a little cheeky with the Limitane, and I'm sure he's going to want to plant those where these deer packs are because they're really not safe for anybody. There's 4 deer packs. They're all scattered directly around the middle.
Yeah, it also means that you're going to have to split up your Limitane quite a bit. There we go. First couple of scouts are now going to start picking off those deer. And yeah, I mean, 1 Limitane, they do good damage against the scouts, but just doesn't feel like it's enough. These are the close deer as well for Beasty, so he doesn't have a long path back to his base. And indeed, we do see the javelins coming in now for VortiX.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because like the Limitane don't necessarily have that mobility. Even though the scout is carrying a deer, you can see it. All they do is they drop it. Beasty just has to remember where that thing actually is so he can go pick it back up. But if you have multiple scouts getting a deer pack, you can kind of just wrap your way around it, take a little bit of damage, and that's fine because the scouts heal anyway.
They do. Granted, they're not warrior scouts, so they don't heal as quickly, but they will still heal over time. We are now seeing archers coming in from Beasty behind this. And VortiX, I mean, with the javelin throws, is going to have a good response to that.
Yeah, he definitely is. It's kind of surprising seeing the lack of mobility on both sides, right, with the Limitane and the javelin throwers for the Byzantines. Because you kind of expect some kind of like horse unit, like horsemen or whatever, but I feel like the meta is shifting kind of away from horsemen because, yeah, they have the speed to catch up to the scout, but they don't pack the punch.
The Beasty infantry chasing after that 1 Limitane. They have, like, wolves actually have really quick attack speed as well. Like, one day I walked past a wolf and I was like, okay, he gets, like, 1 hit off. He got, like, 3 hits off in the blink of an eye. Like, they're scary.
Wow, and the attack is a bite, specifically. So we know he's not using the claws.
2 attacks.
He's
Oh,
using
they're
those sharp
ghouls.
canines.
Now we know where the Ghoulam comes from. They got a double attack.
That's right. That would be absolutely nuts. And at least a lot of these Limitane are kind of a little weakened. So maybe those archers will be able to do something. Now remember, the Limitane do have that shield wall effect to them, but it slows them down so much to the point where it would prove to be difficult. So javelin
Here
throwers
come the javelins.
are going to be able to hit those archers if they can catch up to them. It's enough to make those archers back up. And that's what's so important. You know, stalling this out is so frustrating if you're
This is
Beasty,
doing so
right?
much. Yeah, it's doing so much damage to Beasty right now. You can look at his food income right now. It's not looking too good. The food income for Beasty at the moment, it definitely is anything but stellar. Just this consistent denial from VortiX on the pro scouts. This is tough for Beasty. He's just getting starved out of food now.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the times you want to do this to go up to Castle Age, right? To get that horse archer, to get that power spike unit, get your relics, get your map control. Beasty has to sit making archers.
We get an indicator on the Golden Gate as well. Look at that. 150 resource just been invested. So he's getting, rather he just got 150 resource out of it. 100 resource in, you get 150 resource out. Tim, that's a great trade offer. That's a great deal. Greatest deal of all time.
Deal. Yeah, I think the guys who are in the Golden Gate, like the marketeers or whatever they are, the bankers, they have difficulty counting. Now, that boar, oh my god, what a nice little piece of pulled pork! Gonna try to take down those Limitane, but it's gonna back up and go back to its radius. You can see that there's deer scattered all over the place.
Great move from VortiX, microing that Limitane to up there. Nice scout kill there. And Golden Horn Tower behind all of this now. From what? He's in a great spot. he's in a great spot. He's only invested into, like, say, 12, 14 Libidinite so far. The Javelin throwers are free, so that means that he's going to be able to easily afford the age up now.
And you know, Crackety, it synchronizes so well because VortiX wanted to get all of the oil, right? So he gets all of the berries. Those Limitane, they're 80 food and 10 wood. You basically just need food, and you want to get it from berries anyway. So you're exactly right. Not much skin off his nose to try to get up to Castle Age, and we're going to see him going up that Golden Horn Tower. Once we get some camels out here now, some camel riders, we're going to see a problem because those are things that, you know, those horse archers that Beasty wanted to get in Castle Age, not really going to be there. And you can see he's working his way towards it. He's got a little bit of time, though.
Beasty, once again, Pro Scouts is getting denied here from the looks of it. Another scout will get taken down. One scout still carrying one of those deer carcasses. Will have to drop it if you want to lie. Still takes a lot of damage. Now the age up is going to be coming in. Beasty rallying his archers forward. Wants to delay his opponent at least a little bit, some way, somehow. Keep him inside of his space. Issue is VortiX is already inside of Beasty space. Yeah, he has to pull back now.
Yeah, he definitely does. And now VortiX getting that veteran contract for the mercenaries. Beasty using a couple archers just to create a little bit of raid, create a little bit of chaos. And he's going with Abby of the Trinity! Oh my god.
If you don't have any great spots to put in, right? Like, you don't have map control. It's kind of like your only option, right? Like, where are you going to place it otherwise? But now are going to get picked off, though.
Yeah, you really don't have a choice. You're exactly right with the Abbey, because High Trade House, like, if you did have the map control, all that kind of stuff, you might be putting on a nice, delectable spot in the bald lands, but not so much. He's staying right on that bald top head because BC doesn't have an answer for it. Now, that wooden fortress gets to be alive for another day. Maybe if he repairs it, maybe, hopefully, anybody, somebody. No, it's going down.
It's a lot of charcoal.
And you know, Crackety, when we're talking about the professional scouts and the stalling of it, it's all well and good. BC got a decent amount of deer, right? But it's about afterward, right? So not only do you need the deer to get up to Castle Age, which is great, if you're going to make something like horse archers that are 80 food a pop out of multiple archery ranges, you're going to need deer to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And the archer count from Beasty, it's been weakened significantly. Beasty did manage to get some good value in time and time again with those archers. Did manage to sneak in 3 villager kills behind this. But now what's his army composition going to be? Because we are seeing the cavalry archers in queue. It doesn't feel that great when your opponent already has a lot of javelin throwers out now.
Yeah, I think more so he's relying on the mobility, right? I mean, you can use those horse archers to go in and raid your opponent. He notices just because of the archer raid that he had prior, as we're seeing a little Mexican standoff here, 1v1, Archer's going to take that one. But you're seeing, you know, the ability to use those horse archers for their mobility to go in and try to take down Byzantine villagers. And losing a Byzantine villager is so important because of the cistern, you know, because of the hydration status that it has.
Yeah, I mean, always important to hydrate. You never want to lose losing a dehydrated villager, that's fine, right? Like, your average Abbasid villager with fresh foodstuffs, they don't cost a lot of food to replenish. But these villagers, like, they're filled up. You don't want to lose them.
And with they're so high maintenance. Like, they always need water. It's like, I'm spending all of this stone to get your cisterns just so you can have a drink of water. What a benevolent leader, you know? But now with VortiX, he is going to get first crack at some of these relics. Even though Beasty did go with Abbey of the Trinity, his warrior monks are going to be half price. The problem is, VortiX just got up with the Grand Winery that much quicker. He ended up getting those monks out, and even though they're a little bit slower, he was able to guard the relics. He already has 1 in the bank, 2 coming back. Beasty's going to grab this one, though. There's that horse archer raid.
These raids are so good. Once again, like, it's similar to last game. These raids, they're keeping Beasty in the game. Just a couple of units.
And, you know, this is why, Crackety, I'll go on and on with saying this. Walls are essentially overpowered. You know, having these horse archers, having this raiding specialist, and you have to shoot 1,250 arrows to actually get through one of these walls, you can't raid anymore. So VortiX does a good job of walling his base up. The javelin throwers are going to help with that mobility, maybe catch them in a corner, and Beasty's going to have to back up. I kind of think after he walls, it makes me feel like those horse archers aren't really good anymore, and he is going to change. He's going to go for men-at-arms and crossbows.
Tim, I'll have to say, like, if you look at a wooden wall and you expect throwing more wood at the wall for it to get smaller, that typically isn't how it works.
Well, right. I mean, yeah, from an architectural and a structural standpoint, I definitely understand. I just think they're stupid. So going with the men-at-arms and the crossbowman is going to help him. Of course, those men-at-arms are against those javelin throwers, right? The crossbowman, he's looking for maybe some Varangian Guard play out of the Byzantines because BC is really not going to go for cavalry, right? He knows that there's camel riders. He knows that there's javelin throwers that are going to be hitting the battlefield, so he's going completely immobile.
Oh, it looks like Beasty is at least now finally, like on a pretty big delay, mind you, but he is getting those deer in. He still has 5 scouts. He remade them time and time and time again, even after losing them. And now is his opportunity to get as many deer as he wants. He didn't have them for a long time, and now his food income is flourishing. VortiX, he does have just a ton of javelin throwers. The question is it going to be enough against this many men-at-arms? As a front line? Could be tough still.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, he has 26 javelin throwers. He has 2 other batches that are currently getting produced. And you kind of, like, in Feudal Age, you can operate on this mindset where, he can only make so many, right? But then once you get to Castle Age, the winery starts popping off. The Golden Horn is giving him these things. It becomes a point where this is a staple in the Byzantine army, and if you don't have the counter for it, you're going to be in trouble. Definitely with the amount of men-at-arms. I don't see him having that counter. Those horse archers, they don't run away. They're going to be long for this world also. So taking a look at army compositions, besides BC getting men-at-arms, maybe some siege?
We are seeing a switch into stable, so could be horsemen with Boyar's Fortitude. That could certainly help here as well. Granted, there are a lot of limit now. BC would first need to reduce that number quite a bit.
Yeah, and you kind of got to think about how to do it, and that's why BC's men-at-arms switch is a pretty good idea, right? Because you got to pick something not on horse. You have to pick something that's not an archer, right? So men-at-arms are going to be able to help you. But now VortiX, he's getting a little bit feisty with some rams that are going to be shooting that fire out. Those nice, delectable little chiropractors are going to rain their special version of hell up north. Beastie's now his job is defending.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a lot of oil yourself, that's when it starts becoming time to throw oil at your opponent. That's what the Siphon's going to be here for now.
Yeah, and I think it just presses the issue, right? Making sure that Beastie and VortiX are
that's a
going
big
to
army,
get an
though.
engagement and take this fight. Saint's Blessing coming out for a little bit more ranged armor. That's going to help
This
him.
is not the
limit
fight you're
Danae.
looking for. VortiX, that's too many men-at-arms.
That is too many men-at-arms, and especially because they get a little bit of extra firepower from the Blessing. I think that helped churn up a lot of those limit today that were over there. Some Varangian Guard also, but they're going to go down really quickly. These javelin throwers need to get out. These rams are going to get completely bursted as you're seeing the men-at-arms target them. Oh, man.
That's a lot of
VortiX,
javelin throwers still, though. Like, the javelin throwers actually have reached critical mass when it comes to being able to take down the men-at-arms now.
Yeah, and I think that's why Beastie's going for something else. You can see the Siege Workshop. You can see the Mangonel coming out. We're going to see if we can get a good
great
hit.
shot.
That is a spicy one. Woo! That Mangonel getting a good hit. Now, a lot of those javelin throws only about like 25%, something like that, health. So one more Mangonel shot's really going to do it.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, VortiX, he's going to need to get more Limit out. And, I mean, look at the food income. What is going on there? He's got a lot of wood in the bank. He needs to get more olive groves out, like yesterday.
Yeah, and I think really quickly, as we're seeing some of those javelin throwers back up, look at the farm transition, or lack thereof, I should say. There are not that many olive groves. Now he's starting to olive grove. And Byzantines are one of those civilizations, Crackety. I want to hear your opinion on this also, where you can kind of just incrementally do this and not really harm your food output. VortiX, I think he just wanted to end the game earlier than what he is currently.
It's interesting. Like, it feels like for the most part so far, VortiX, he's followed his early game plans to a T, but then he kind of changed his mind a couple of times. Like, just these Castle Age transitions that in some situations didn't really feel too necessary here for him. BC's using these chances to, like, stick it out in the game, where he was very much disadvantaged in the Feudal Age.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a couple safe resources in the back, right? The wood is going to run out sooner than the other ones, right? Because BC might be doing a little bit of a farm transition as well, but he has 2 berry patches that are relatively safe. VortiX doesn't have one too safe over there on the western side, that horse archer just being an absolute menace. But now that he has some of these packs that are all the way in the back, maybe that'll help him get those food-heavy units that he so desperately wants, right? He wants horsemen that he's making, crossbowmen, men-at-arms. It costs a lot of food to make all that stuff.
Yeah, BC still has a lot of resource on the TC. Remember, like, he got a lot of the sheep in on this map. He now has deer in as well, a lot of them. There's still some deer on the map, and he is reinvesting into scouts, so we'll potentially try and pick those off next as well. He's even on the boar here, so his food income is very good, which means that he is able to afford a lot of horsemen, as they are in queue right now. And VortiX so far, I mean, he doesn't really have a good enough answer against this mixed army composition consisting of men-at-arms and crossbows from Beasty. Like, so many men-at-arms here, they're gonna do a critical amount of damage. Like, the Libidinae, they're not gonna last for a long time. And VortiX has some of his own ranking guards, but so many crossbows, they're gonna take them down really quickly as well. The question is which backline is gonna last longer, though.
Yeah, I mean, VortiX has maybe 10, 11 Varangian Guard. I don't know how many that are actually going to make the battlefield for this big engagement. We're seeing VortiX continue to try to stay aggressive. You see those 2 sacred sites he does capture, one of them being tested, the eastern side. Might this be an opportunity for perhaps a sacred site victory as VortiX getting raided again? He's trying to wall with a very cheeky wall display over there on the western side, but not quite there. There's a little bit of an overchop.
Is it open, or were I think the villagers, they were just on the wrong side. Yeah, it wasn't open, the villagers, they were just on the wrong side. So BC, I mean, he's killed a lot of villagers this game. He's eked out like an 11 villager lead so far. Grant, he's got less relics, he doesn't have the sacred sites, he doesn't get olive oil in, he doesn't have the high trade house, so like the usual situation that the Roos find themselves in, with a lot of relics, with a lot of passive gold income, that's not really the case at the moment for Beasty. That's not the situation that he's in right now. His units don't cost a lot of gold. Men-at-arms only cost 20, crossbows you could make a case okay, at 40, but the horsemen don't cost anything. It's a very cheap army overall.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think Beasty is playing very heads up and knowing, okay, this is the amount of villagers I need to continuously produce these food-heavy resources, and that's why you're seeing how much food he has. Just starting to get Boyar's Fortitude. And again, not only with all of the berries and maybe getting some farms, and he has the boar over there on the eastern side as well, but you got to remember that Golden Gate is still helping you. It's still giving you good engagements, and now this engagement to end all engagements, I'm thinking these mangonels, a little bit of siege superiority from Beasty. He's got one trickling in, trying to take hits on some javelin throwers. Not split up here. He's not doing the splits this time around. Men-at-arms and horsemen are actually going to get to those javelin throwers, and for VortiX, this looks horrible.
Yeah, we were at 40 javelin throws, now already down to just 20. The horsemen, they didn't get taken down quickly enough. This was before Boyar's Fortitude even. It's still being researched behind this. VortiX, he just lost his entire military mass, and the economy behind us just doesn't look good enough, and GG gets called. Beasty, with one fight, better army composition here at the end, just too many men-at-arms for VortiX to deal with, and GG gets called now at a 2-0 lead here for Beasty.
Wow. I mean, that's honestly, that's the kind of game that I love to see out of Age of Empires 4. You know, you're getting some raiding, you're doing some stuff with the pro scouts and all that. Then all of a sudden you get to this big crescendo at the end, right? With that Castle Age, that big Castle Age fight. Mangonel's proving to be pretty clutch, because we're going to see in the replay what VortiX does to try to kill those mangonels. But let's take a look at some of these resources now. Beasty with a copious amount of food. Could that be from the boar, or could that be from professional scouts? I would argue it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both here for sure. I mean, it's a big lead, right? Like, you're looking at 7,000 food. That's like 70 horsemen right then and there. Man, this was kind of critical. I'm looking at this once again. I'm just thinking to myself, okay, VortiX, he's such a great player when it comes to getting himself an early lead. Just these last 2 games, though, it felt like he kind of tended to give Beasty a little bit too much time to restabilize even after he gets these early leads in. and then he's kind of losing control over these games.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did a good job at getting to Castle Age, right? Denying the pro scouts, all of that kind of stuff. I'm not really, because you kind of expected some, or just from watching VortiX, some urgency in it, where there didn't necessarily have to be. You know, maybe VortiX feels like he can't compete with Beasty in the late games. So that's why he's taking these aggressions.
I mean, the aggression is just kind of like VortiX's normal playstyle. I'm just surprised that he isn't committing that much to the aggression. Like, time and time again, like in these last 2 games, he had Beasty on the ropes multiple times. But the lack of commitment then, that's not typically something that we see out of VortiX. And I'm wondering right now if that might be because those 2 players have been practicing for this tournament with each other. And maybe he just doesn't feel like he can get away with that. But so far, he definitely looked like he was in a great position early on in these games.
And look at Crackety. Look at the way, I mean, he sends all the Limited, the Varangian Guard, to try to take down these Mangonels, so his entire front line gets evaporated, focusing on the Mangonels, and not a single Mangonel actually goes down. All of his Javelin throwers that were on the eastern side of this fight were not protected by Limited, Varangian Guard, anything. So those horsemen ended up getting free reign, and this was an open pasture for them.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal here. God, okay. Next up, it is going to be Gorge. Very aggressive map, and we're going to be seeing China coming in from VortiX, a civilization which likes to make a lot of units, and Order of the Dragon coming out for Beasty, a civilization that likes to do the opposite, not make a lot of units.
Yeah, this is very typical quantity over quality, right? Or maybe the other way around. We'll see if Beasty can take commanding 3-0 in this one and keep VortiX on the back foot. Now, we talked about Order of the Dragon just a little bit. What is your opinion on Gorge with Order of the Dragon? Because me personally, that's a map I actually pick Order of the Dragon quite frequently.
I think it depends on just... I think Order of the Dragon in general, I think they're a very good civilization to pick against pro scouts in... like on maps where you get like one deer spawn that's somewhat close to you, because it's very easy for you to just rally all your 5 villagers at the beginning onto one of those deer spots. It gives you so much food income, you immediately potentially like deny one of the deer spots from your opponent just because they're going to be depleted by the time your opponent wants to go for them. And also you get so much food in that typically horsemen, they got a tough time dealing with the scouts when they pick off the deer, just because there's no bonus damage in. Scouts have like 110 health, horsemen do 9 damage. You need a lot of hits from a horseman to take a scout down, and they don't have that great attack speed. Order of the Dragon horsemen, they got a much easier time. Like, every hit really, really hurts. So I think maybe that could be a point where OTD, they can work against China, which is a very strong pro scout civ at the moment.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. You can, with those gilded horsemen, you have the mobility and you have the power behind it. We talked about that last game about not going horsemen to counter pro scouts because they don't pack that punch. Horsemen definitely, for Order of the Dragon, have that punch. And you could even do, if you want to protect some of your safe ones, or maybe you want to send units out, there's an opportunity to get a gilded spearman, and man, that spear just, it rips through anything on horseback. You know, it basically putting it on a kebab.
Yeah, looks like we're gonna be jumping right in. No, never mind. These are predictions. I'm getting baited. I didn't look at the timer. All right, we're getting baited. Look at that. Okay, so we got our predictions in here at the moment. So, yeah, okay. So it's fairly even between them, right? Like, players think, okay, maybe it's gonna be a 4-2 for VortiX. Maybe it's gonna be a 4-3 for Beasty. Maybe it's gonna be a 4-2 for Beasty. Definitely, players do think that they're, or at least the casters, the production team, they think that these players are quite evenly matched. Grant Cow, he thinks that VortiX can only get 1 game on the board. From the looks of it at the moment, he's got good odds at the moment. The question is if VortiX can still make something happen here. Yeah, because these games were close.
And Cow also picking the upset of Anatan over Marine Lord in a 4-3. He thinks that's going to go all 7, and he's definitely an Anatan believer. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm a big Anatan fan. You know, I love watching him play, watching him go up right? And ascending the ladder, number one. Number two, watching him play in some of those old tournaments like War Chief Club by Rising Empires a long time ago. And now all of a sudden, he's one of these top 4 for the Masters Winter. He's been putting the work in, and it's been paying off. Now he's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with the best.
I believe it's time. I just heard the go ahead. So we should be looking at our game number 3 now, between Beasty and VortiX. And indeed, there we go. Beasty spawning in the color yellow, playing as the Order of the Dragon, already got that Dark Age barracks up, Spearman in queue. He's going to be facing off VortiX in the color red, playing as the Chinese. And Tim, I got to tell you, like I like this play from Beasty here with the Dark Age barracks, because you know what we see a lot of from China these days? No Imperial Official. You know what happens when you don't have an Imperial Official and your gold gets denied?
Oh,
Big trouble.
Man, this could be a yikers. You're exactly right. He needs that 100 gold. He's not going to get it from taxes. So that Spearman's going to go right over to that gold mine. It also has value if Feudal Age ends up going, right? Once you start getting Feudal Age. Because he could park, looking at where the map is, you could park your Spearman right near those deer packs that are on the left side that are supposedly safe for VortiX. Having them both kind of at the same area means that you have, you could use a lack of mobility and still be a little bit okay. But seeing that Spearman come in, this Order of the Dragon play, oh my God, I absolutely love it. VortiX is not at 200 gold. He's nowhere close. He's going to have to figure out what to do. Does he make his own Imperial Official now?
I think he kind of... No, he's sending the boys.
Oh,
you don't want
God.
to send the weak boy, though. This is a lot of commitment, and you can tell, like, this Spearman, he's getting value in right now. Oh, Beasty, he's going to go for it. Is he going to be able to get it? Villager? He gets the
so
Villager
huge.
kill!
Oh my God, that's just insane. And the thing of it is, see, this is really good against the Chinese too, because they're going for it. He put a mill by where his lumber camp is, so he's not depositing to the town center, right? You don't get the taxes for depositing to the town center, so they got to move all the way out, and then they got a garrison. I mean, obviously the hand cannon slits is going to help, but -1 villager as the Chinese. This is, hey, Beasty's like, yeah, all I got to do is not throw this game. He feels like he's in a good spot.
Another issue now is VortiX, he doesn't actually have enough gold to produce an Imperial Official now and age up. Or after he's age up, he won't have enough gold for an Imperial Official. We do see the Imperial Academy coming in. But that means that VortiX, he's going to have to get more gold in. He's going to have to get, like, an additional 25 gold now. He might need to make an archery range first, a production building first. So a lot of value has been achieved here. A ton of value.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, we talk about China and Zhu Xi also having that super quick pro scout and all that kind of stuff. Well, if you don't have the gold for it, you don't even have the gold for an IO, you don't have a couple pieces of gold to rub together, you're going to have a problem getting professional scouts as quickly as you do. Now, Beasty going to be following him in the Feudal Age with the Mine Work Palace. He's looking to take it to him. And you know what? With the Order of the Dragon into Feudal Age, this is a civilization that Men-at-Arms could work well against.
It's not just Men-at-Arms, it's also just getting that timing in on your upgrades. If you make archers, if you make horsemen, just getting those additional upgrades in a little bit earlier, that can make a pretty big difference. Some villagers idling out on the mill for VortiX. He does have the scout nearby with a lot of sheep, so will want to deposit them at his earliest convenience. There we go. Sheep are getting deployed. Villagers getting microed back. Don't want to kill those sheep too far away. There we go. And now archers are going to be coming in, so VortiX will regain control over his gold. But a lot of delay has been caused here behind all of this. So Beasty, he's gotten a lot of value in from this play.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And even VortiX, I mean, yeah, his mining camp went away, but I'm pretty sure he almost was housed there. So definitely needed a reaction, not only from that getting that gold, but getting the archery range, getting the archer. That's an extra 200 wood he would rather spend somewhere else, right? You're on a map like Gorge that it's very difficult to go get your other back golds or, your secondary golds because they're all around the Gorge. There's one all the way on the western side. There's one all the way on the eastern side. So definitely did enough damage. And BC is going to be the first one to click that Pro Scout button because while this was going on, kept his villagers on gold, build that mill right next to the berries, and he's going to be able to go.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a pro scout race now coming in between these two. VortiX, at least, he is starting to get some Imperial officials in, so we'll be able to capitalize on all the taxes that have been lying inside of his gather buildings. Yeah, he's going to be working on it with a very big delay here when it comes to getting his upgrade in, when it comes to getting his scouts out. He invests into an archery range, he invests into archers. And yeah, it's going to be not from a position of strength here, where VortiX will go for the for professional scout.
No, and I mean, with Beasty queuing the men-at-arms, we can see it getting queued out of the barracks. He does have a stable as well, so he'll be able to get some more scouts and or horsemen if he would like to try to do that. But getting those men-at-arms now, because VortiX just went in archery range, he could put a couple of archers. So now you're doing that because, yeah, you're going to be effective against trying to take down the spearmen. Once there are no spearmen on the battlefield, you spent 250 wood total making a unit that you don't want.
Pro Scouts now also coming in for VortiX is going to be able to supervise that, so isn't going to be that far behind when it comes to research time. He's going to get that in roughly 30 seconds. Beasty had to wait a minute and a half for an upgrade to come in. We're now also seeing the Order of the Dragon investing into an archer range, so OTD archers could be on the menu as well. VortiX does scout that his opponent is also going for that Pro Scout play.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy with the supervision, right? Because you're exactly right. VortiX was not that far behind, right? He just got his gold back, but being able to supervise it, get it in 30 seconds, number one. And number two, being able to supervise your stable. Because now all of a sudden, Beasty was the first one to get the stable out. He had his plan, and he was going for it. Now all of a sudden, VortiX has just as many scouts, if not more, than Beasty does.
Yeah, scouts are coming in quite quickly here. We are seeing the deer being collected. Archer just being a little bit annoying, but Beasty does have his own archer there, so we'll be fine overall. Villagers only get pulled back for a second. Survival techniques coming in now as well, and that's going to be food in here now for Beasty. He's actually investing into a 5th scout. Now you only need 4 in theory to be able to completely empty out a deer camp in like two trips pretty much. So 2 trips and are gonna be all. I think both players are just gonna get their own deer camps, and that's probably gonna be the end of the story. After that, I think players are just gonna look for that Castle Age transition, for that Castle Age switch up. Beasty with some archers is still probably gonna look for some damage here and there, but we are seeing the Barbican coming in now. And with the Barbican, I mean, there's not gonna be a ton of damage that Beasty can find here, realistically.
No, I mean, that's always proven to be difficult against the Chinese, right? Once they get that Barbican up and they make it a little bit safe, right? That gold is secure. He's really not going to be able to get to that mill that's all the way in the back. So it's going to end up being a point where does Beasty want to go up to Castle Age, or does he want to continue to make units? And he really wants to take some sort of engagement in feudal. He's still making these food-heavy units. These horsemen are 200. These men-at-arms are 200. Whether this is for stopping men-at-arms or trying to have some kind of aggression, he's going to run into that 5,000 hit point outpost if he wants to do that.
That's quite a tanky wall. Not only that, but also does a good bit more damage. So those armored units, like those men-at-arms, they're not going to have the best time against that. Men-at-arms, they just can't catch up with those scouts.
No, and you would think, like, you know, the scouts they are just normal scouts, right? They're not warrior scouts, they're not whatever. So that men-at-arms at 1.12, if you click on one of those scouts just to see that movement speed of them with the deer, I think it's 1.04, 1.06, I'm sorry. So it's not that far off. So you're exactly right. And the men-at-arms aren't going to do that backup power that they necessarily need. Now, VortiX is going to be going up with the Castle Age. The astronomical clock tower Beasty will be following pretty soon. It looks like he needs a little bit of gold in order to do that. And he's going to try to stop this deer pack over here on the western side. So Beasty, I'm pretty sure he's getting his 2 safe deer packs and got all of them. If he could take a couple of these, that could definitely work in his favor.
Yeah, Beasty does have a pretty good army here overall. Horsemen, 5 archers, and single spearman means that VortiX is going to have to make quite the heavy investment if he wants to really deal with his army. That's kind of a crazy thing, right? Like, these are feudal age units, but you're going to need a lot of Castle Age units in order to deal with them.
Yeah, and you know, now with VortiX hitting Castle Age, what are you really going to make in this situation? I think VortiX made the correct choice in going with the Lancers, but there still is those Spearmen, even though they're feudal age, man, they are scary things to deal with. And actually, that Spearman is still in the Dark Age. He didn't get that upgrade. Now Beasty going with the Burgrave, Palace being second up. What do you think about the Burgrave choice?
I think the Burgrave is just such an undervalued landmark for the Order of the Dragon. Main reason is, overall, what's the maximum amount of value you can get out of the Dragonets when you think about it? If you have all 5 relics, you're getting an additional 400 gold per minute. The Burgrave is always going to provide you the maximum value. You can also get the Military Academy upgrade in from the Minework for a cheaper price. That is going to increase the value of the Burgrave further because you're producing even faster. You can get like roughly 400 resources per minute out of Burgrave in savings, and you're getting a lot of military out on the field as well. And look at just how many villagers we're going to see. Oh, I love this. I love this army composition. Zornhau, Lanchte with cavalry.
Oh, man. You know what, Crackety? I love that you're so German. And you're going to be able to say those words because you're exactly right. Now, hopefully, we do see some Zornhau, right? We do see some bleeding effect damage. And it definitely could be a play against something like a Knight from the Chinese side, because even though those Knights, they have a lot of damage, all that kind of stuff, but if you do get those Lance Connect, they're going to be able to pack a punch as well. Now, Beasty actually going with his own Knights. Those Gilded Knights are the closest thing we have to Panzer tanks in this video game.
Knight is getting some value in the economy from Beasty there on the wood line. Will manage to find a villager kill there.
Oh no.
Shuganu trying... Yeah, I mean... eventually, that man-in-arms is going to go down. Ooh, that Order of the Dragon Knight. He's built differently.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Look how thick he is with that. He's got a big black horse, too, and he'll be able to run down just about anybody, maybe besides a horseman. A little quick Wololo on that Gilded Spearman. I think it'll make it out.
He deletes it, actually. Yeah.
Wow.
Wants to play it safe, deletes that Spearman. Won't be going over through conversion. But the Monk out on the field, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Beasty now investing into crossbows and Spearmen. That's a pretty good army composition as well. And that's the thing, that's what we talked about earlier, right? Like, Beasty having more military or similar army numbers out on the field with the Order of the Dragon compared to any other civilization, you're going to feel like you're in a pretty good spot.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And, you know, even though, because VortiX is going with crossbowmen, I guess he's kind of straying away from the Zugnu. I was kind of thinking about that Gilded Archer upgrade when you get that +3 for ranged armor. So if he did go Zugnu and continued to make them, I think they would do 1 damage a pop to even those archers.
Yeah, I'm a little wondering now what his plan is. He's massing a lot of knights now. He's got Jugunu, he's got crossbows. The thing is, right, like Beasty is holding his main army back inside of his base. He's not openly showing what he's got out there yet. So VortiX right now, the army that he's producing, it's based on assumption. Wololo is coming in, charge is coming in successfully. So Prelate is going to get 2 relics already in for VortiX. There's a lot of scholars out on the field now for Beasty.
Now, I'm not sure, I mean... Oh, that Prelate's going to be going down as well. This might be an engagement that VortiX does not want to take. Maybe he ends up backing up Spearmen. They're going to be able to get in there, maybe take down one of these monks. A Knight goes down as well. Just having that one big Knight for the Order of the Dragon over on this side at relatively full health takes a lot of crossbowman hits to take
it takes
those
so
down.
long to take those Spearmen down. They have so much health, and there's just not enough Jugunu. And Jugunu, they don't do bonus damage, right? So they're always kind of like stuck at the base damage that they do. Nice little raids here as well from Beasty. Man, like there's such a tough spot at the moment now for VortiX. He's got a lot of wooden behind all of this, so could go for a Grainery transition. Oh, yeah, this is interesting.
I think VortiX is realizing that he has to do some kind of Grainery transition, because those deer, if they haven't run out yet, they're going to be dangerously close to it. And I feel like BC should know this, right? Looking at the military count, it's 50 to 18. So if Beasty really wants to push this initiative, he could stop VortiX getting this Grainery transition. And this is always the time for the Chinese when they're at their weakest moment, because the food's really not there. So he's not going to be able to produce much units. And, you know, this is the 3rd game in a row Crackety, where VortiX is having trouble with a food transition later in the game.
And there's a little yellow dot nearby the food transition. It's moving away. Never mind. Now it's moving closer. It's moving away again. Okay, it's just a scout. So he's gonna see now this position of that food transition. Could, in theory, pull the boar. But to be fair, it's probably something that VortiX could work with as well if he just takes that down. But this is a rough transition point now for VortiX, right? Like, he's so outmassed, and we can tell just based off the minimap, Beasty is pulling everything on the side now. He is gonna that is gonna be the center of his aggression. VortiX, he doesn't have the resource for a keep or anything really defensive wise here on the side now.
And you know, he has to know that. Like, Beasty should know that that's the area, right? Because of the scout. VortiX should know that that's going to be the area that he's going to try to take down, right? So VortiX is starting to build some walls. I think Beasty's going to have the ability, a little bit of the firepower to actually get through them. Unless those are stone walls, I don't think there's going to be much stopping him.
Oh, we're getting Horsemen in now for VortiX. I mean, Horsemen, in theory, the correct choice up against the crossbows. There's just so many spearmen in there as well. I feel like if he just goes like mass Jugunu and crossbows, that could be good enough for him. He's just gonna have to look out for the inevitable horseman switch up then, if that's gonna be his transition.
And look at what VortiX is doing to do a little bit of a delay, right? While the granaries are going on, he's taking his knights, his 5 or 6 knights, to try to raid somewhere. If Beasty's trying to flag down these knights and takes down a couple, that means he's not over by the granaries. So hopefully Beasty will be able to take a couple of them down. This is the part of the game where China kind of slows down, relaxes a little bit, waits to get that food income bustling, so maybe he can exploit a little bit of map control, take some sacred sites. But he's got 80 military, Crackety. It's 80 to 38. This really feels like it's his time.
Not only is it his time, we're getting Inspired Warriors in behind all of this as well. 6 prelates out, more in queue. I'm not sure if the wall is complete. I think there might have been a scout blocking it. I'm not 100% on that. Never mind. Wall has been finished up, so wall is complete. VortiX Duff has his over here. But we're getting back to the point, right? Like, overall, economy-wise, or not economy-wise, but population-wise, military population-wise, Beasty is ahead, and the numbers are even. When the numbers are even, that's when you're in big trouble.
Oh, absolutely, because everyone pound for pound is so much better, right? But now, those Zugnu, those crossbowmen can sit behind the wall. Those ranged units are inspired, though. Might be able to take some good hits, not only on ranged units, but on horsemen as well, just because of the amount of damage that you're going to be able to fire through all of those crossbowmen. So now starting to back up a little bit, and you can see how important it is for VortiX that he actually built that wall, right? You have your range mass shooting behind it. Your melee can't get in there. Now he's taking a fight without a wall at all. There is a scout there for Beasty around that stealth force who's going to have an idea to see where everything is. And VortiX doesn't have a lot of that bonus damage against those spearmen. Like you said, Crackius might make him back up.
Better isn't in yet on those for those archers, but BC is researching that now. Food transition looks very good now for VortiX. He did manage to like kind of find his pacing there. Was a little bit rough in the mid transition period there, but now overall looking good. Going for the flank around 2.
Yeah, I think this is a time where VortiX has got to realize, like, he doesn't have to do this. You know, he has the eco advantage. He doesn't necessarily have the relic count, but BC didn't go Regnitz, right? So you're not worried about that gold too much. Just get yourself the pop cap. You know, he has to push to you. BC has to push to you. So don't worry about it too much. Now, VortiX is doing a good job cleaning up just a little bit. Some spearmen actually end up going down. Crossbowmen, with how much range they have, and you can see the amount of range they have, they're going to be able to kite some of those crossbowmen, some of those Zugnu that are coming in. So overall, not a bad engagement for VortiX. It just begs the question, why did it happen?
I think overall it's fine for him to trade out military. He did it pretty efficiently so far. And if he's able to trade out the military here, like 1 for 1, as long as you trade out 1 for 1, you're going to be in a good spot against Out of the Dragon. And looks like VortiX has been able to hold on here now for a good while. I'm getting back to this. This is going to be a hill that I die on. I'm going to say, like, if BC just made only Horsemen and mass Landsknechte, there would have been very little that VortiX could have done against.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of crazy with how much damage those two-handed soldiers are, right? He is starting to add a couple of them now. I see 3 that are out on the battlefield and is starting to get that upgrade as well. Beasty took that whole fight without that +3 for the archers. Granted, he doesn't have a lot, but you might be able to save a couple to start taking down some crossbowmen if you have the ability to. Maybe he's making a more of an archer transition.
More Zhuge-Nu coming in, more archers coming in, Somehow on its way as well. Something that's interesting as well, like, we see crossbows and Zhuge-Nu here at the moment. They're kind of difficult to tell apart. Once Somehow comes in for Landsknechte, they also become somewhat difficult to tell apart from the spearmen.
Yeah, that's also true. I mean, you can look at this. This is a blob, I'm pretty sure, of both Crossman and Zhuge-Nu. One of these things are not like the others. I have no idea which one is which. But because of how many there are, you're going to be able to take down some of those units from Beasty. Now, all of a sudden, obviously, the eco count for China is going to be a little bit higher, not only because of the gilded villagers, but because of the Song Dynasty from VortiX as well. But the military count is ending up going back to normal, going back to even. So Beasty had about 80. Now VortiX, with that Grainery transition completed, he got the time to build this up. And now Beasty, I feel like Beasty's in trouble here.
Yeah, Beasty's certainly like losing out a little bit on this timing window they had. We still have a very strong backline though from him. He's got the crossbows, he's got the archers, he's getting more men-at-arms in, he's getting spearmen as a frontline as well. Not a big commitment into Landsknechte. I would love to see horsemen at this point in time. Like, just all of the Dragon Gilded horsemen, they're so great. They are so incredibly great.
Oh, yeah, and, you know, especially because, now, don't get me wrong, like, we're in God mode, right? We can see everything that's going on the map all at the same time, right? So we can see that VortiX has crossbowmen and Zhuge-Nu. It's majorly a ranged mass. I think Beasty can see a lot of it too, just because of the fact that those outposts are there, and Order of the Dragon outposts can see to the next map over. So he's going to be able to see what's going on. Sees a lot of horsemen, sees a lot of this range mass. You're exactly right. Going in a little bit of a horseman play for yourself wouldn't be the worst idea, but I think this is engagement that Beasty wants to take. He's got a military count somewhere around 100, using those spearmen to try to get in there. The horsemen trying to flank around to the backside, trying to find those crossbowmen, and I think they're going to end up getting there. That looks like a pretty decent surround. A lot of those spearmen were trying to take down the range mass of VortiX, but I think these crossbowmen, and they're inspired, they're going to be able to take those horsemen down anyway, Cracky.
It's so much damage. Yeah, I mean, the horsemen, they get a perfect engagement onto the backline from Beast, and it's still just not enough. With every volley, one of the horsemen goes down. And just like that, VortiX is going to have to back off here. Did you perfectly snipe out all of the Landsknechte? It doesn't feel like it's enough at the moment here for him. Crossbows have been pretty much reduced to nothing as well. Only 3 of them remaining. He is still making more and more horsemen. Beasty still has a very healthy military number. And now Landsknechte are back in.
And they're cutting these horses in half, Crackety, and then the crossbowmen just end up finishing them off. Oh my god, this is one of the most fun units to watch. Look at them. Oh, look at those, like, they're bleeding
and
out.
the bleed damage.
Oh my god, they exsanguinated on the battlefield.
4 units down.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, this is the unit. This is the unit you gotta make, and I'm inspired to play Order of the Dragon now after Beasty is slicing and dicing his way through this game. VortiX is going to be the first one to get some siege. He's going to be going with some Nest of Bees. How do you feel about Nest of Bees right now in the current meta?
I think in Feudal Age, not Feudal Age, I say. I mean, in Castle Age, they're probably one of the best siege units that you can get. In Imperial Age, Mangonels just kind of destroy them, because the Imperial Age Mangonel upgrade is just so much better. We do actually have Beasty sneaking out, like, what is it, 10 villagers or so, along the edge, the very edge of the map, to try and get a keep up on the large gold vein of his opponent. Oh my god. And there's Landsknechte in there. Oh no. Beasty, don't do it to him. Beasty, don't do it to him. He's gonna do it to him.
Oh, no.
Archers reveal, but Landsknechte are in. 1 hit. It doesn't connect.
Oh man.
They get out.
This
is literally me when I try to raid and I have a Khan with me and he just suddenly shoots an arrow and then my opponent knows.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing, those Lens Connect obviously do have that AoE damage, but mobility is a little bit lackluster, so not going to be able to catch up to those villagers. Now, the granaries, all of those fields that are supposed to get buffed up end up getting vacated. Looks like VortiX is going for his own little horseman raid on the north side, but those horsemen are flimsy compared to what Beasty has right now. A military count of 114 as Order of the Dragon. He has this giant ranged blob all getting inspired. Nest of Bees shooting their special version of Hell down on them. And it feels like it didn't do anything. He's not even microing. He doesn't even
Prelates
care.
are just healing it up again. There we go. Second Nest of Bee now, though. That means the damage at least is gonna stick for a while longer. I mean, right now they're just shooting the prelates. Military numbers are going down. VortiX, he's lost so many troops behind this. The crossbows, they're just focusing the villagers, and that's another GG coming in. Beasty, he's setting himself up for 4-0 clean sweep from the looks of it.
This was just, and you know, take a look here. This is something really important from Order of the Dragon, and it's the resources. You know, Beasty didn't actually gather as many resources, but it's about how you use those resources and how cost effective he was. There were a lot of fights that Beasty took where his ranged mass was still alive. So yeah, maybe he has a little bit less resources gathered, but he didn't lose his army time and time again. I feel like VortiX did that a couple times, and even though he had the res, he didn't have the power to actually stop an Order of the Dragon army.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like with Order of the Dragon, you can create these death bolts, which are just so incredibly tough to go up against. And this point, like the VortiX, he almost had a comparable military count, but the fight, it wasn't even really close. It wasn't even really that close. The horsemen, they're trying their best, but you can tell like one hit of these horsemen really takes like 20% of the each one of these crossbows or archers. Meanwhile, a single volley off the crossbows is enough to kill one of the horsemen. And just like that, the entire backline from, well, not backline, the front line that was trying to raid from VortiX gets evaporated. It's like the siege transition would have been necessary a good bit earlier. Here we see the archers, they kind of alert VortiX to what's going on here. Immediate reaction. But because of what Beasty is doing behind all of this, he gets to keep up on the large gold vein as well. Means that VortiX, he's got no more gold access at all. Outside of the relics, outside of the Imperial Official, of the taxes. And he's got an army inside of his farms that he just can't get rid of.
Yeah, no, with all of those, like, it just wasn't going to happen, right? This Grainery transition has always proved to be a little bit difficult on Gorge. I feel like just because you want to put your granaries in the back, but because of that giant wood line, you kind of can't, right? So you either go to that western corner, that, like, the area there right next to his town center, you go all the way down to the south like this, but going to as the Chinese and defending all of these areas is so tough. And with those prelates, man, getting the inspiration on all of those units, just basically healing all of the Nest of Bee fire. The Nest of Bees wanted to send them to hell with all that fire, and those prelates had enough prayers to think otherwise. But now it is match point for Beasty. Remember, this is a best of 7. Beasty has the potential to 4-0 sweep this one, and now we're seeing VortiX on the IU bids, Beasty on the English on Cliffside. And I'm going to say this over and over again, Crackety, I miss this map. I miss this map.
Cliffside is a great map overall, I want to say. It can be a little bit annoying against some civilizations, I want to say. But Cliffside overall, it's a very, very nice map, I want to say. Mainly because there's a lot more space on the map than you would immediately think. So even if you like wall off throughout all of the cliffs, there's still so many avenues that you can attack from. I think aggression on Cliffside is overall just really good. And you got a straight path over to your opponent's side. I think it's one of the best new maps that has come out overall. I'm a little bit surprised, actually, that we haven't seen any hybrid maps being picked so far from VortiX.
Yeah, because you think that for VortiX, that's his claim to fame, right? Being on the water, having the micro to do that. But it's not like Beasty is a slouch. You know, they're both coming from StarCraft 2, where what I've been told of StarCraft 2, micro is a very superior notion. in that area, just making sure you could do the splits of all your units. I don't know. I've never played StarCraft 2, but with Cliffside, I think the English ends up being a pretty good matchup because not only with the distance, right? With the Ayyubids wanting to get to some kind of castle stuff, right? They want to kind of skip it. But with that Council Hall, if Beasty does that and ends up going for that longbowman rush, the Ayyubids could be in trouble from it.
It could be, though we've seen Ayyubids actually performing really well as a feudal age civilization. That is in part due to their great flexibility and adaptability with that House of Wisdom. So many different choices, right? If you go for the additional 3 villagers, a little bit of a bonus food bank on those berries, you're always baseline going to have a better economy than your opponent in feudal age. Just 3 villagers immediately. It's pretty big. At a point in time where you got like 12, 14 villagers out on the field, getting 3 more in, or like 15 villagers out on the field, just getting 3 more in, that's a pretty hefty boost to your economy. On top of that, you're getting like a golden age minus kind of first tier in, where you're getting 10% additional gather efficiency, 15% that the Abbasid get.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And even with that House of Wisdom, say you don't go economic wing, there's always a potential to get a couple of dervishes and get some healing potential in feudal age, right? You have, and you've probably been a victim of this too. I've done it to people where you just get those 2 dervishes, you make a military building, get a desert raider, all of a sudden it's absolutely unkillable.
Yeah, I mean, the dervishes, they kind of give you the potential to reach those checkmate situations. With checkmate situations, I mean, where you find yourself in a position where you just can't do anything about it. I've been there personally, where I played English, and it was actually up against BCS, the Ayyubids. I went for I went for like the Abbey of Kings. My king out, 2 dervishes completely out-heal the king.
You know what? Good. I'm sick of that king. He should sit on his throne in the town center and just get the hell away from me. But now we're going on to game number 4. It's Beasty playing as the English in the color yellow, VortiX as the Ayyubids in the color red on this pivotal game number 4. Is VortiX going to swing the tide in his favor with the Ayyubids, or is Beasty going to close it out and get his way to the next stage of this tournament? This could be make or break.
Indeed, could be make or break here for him. House of Wisdom already placed, not being... Oh my...
Oh.
No way! No way!
Oh man.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you know, farms are half price, so you just make them. And then you don't have to worry about food, right? So he's got 5 farms at the price of just about 2.5 for a normal civilization. Lots of farming, and then a little bit of gold as well. Now, with your seeing all of these farms together, what are you thinking, Crackety? What is the game plan from Beasty right now?
So I've seen Beasty recently just like practice a couple of cheese builds. This is actually something that I've done a couple years back, where you just make only men-at-arms and try to overrun, idle out your opponent. Now, the interesting thing about this matchup is Ayyubids, they got one unit that deals really well against only men-at-arms. That's going to be the Desert Raider. 5 melee armor on those bad boys. 5 melee armor. They absolutely, and a lot of attack speed as well, like they absolutely shred men-at-arms. Beasty, he won't be able to just go only men-at-arms. He can't even make only men-at-arms and horsemen, because horsemen also get countered out. He's gonna need a mix of longbows in there as well. Once you go longbows, you're gonna spend a lot of you're gonna spend a lot of wood on that. And when you spend a lot of wood on longbows, you're not gonna have as much for the farms anymore.
Oh my God, Cal, that was probably the best joke of the stream so far. It's a 17-12 in favor of Beasty. Nobody cares, okay? Nobody cares. The English has farms. The Ayyubids have berries. If sheep do go down, it'll be a lot later in the game. So we'll kind of see Beasty going with the Council Hall, which we kind of expected if we want to do a little bit of aggression. But with these men-at-arms, because I was thinking about this too, obviously with the Council Hall, you get the ability to produce those longbowmen really quickly. What do you think about, because he's going with the barracks anyway, what do you think about a little bit of spearmen too in there?
Spearman absolutely makes sense. It's a Camel Launcher, the Desert Raider doesn't do bonus damage to them. So that's definitely a unit that you can have out there. Makes a lot of sense. We are getting the economic ring growth in from VortiX from the looks of it, so we'll be getting that good little bit of just bonus economy in very early on for him. He's going to need to produce a lot of units, though, here very, very quickly. Does already have enough wood for a stable. A good amount of sheep are coming in. Granted, sheep, you mentioned it earlier, not the most important thing when you already have this many farms out there.
Yeah, imagine getting all of these sheep just as English. And, you know, they're one of the civs that I feel like had some sort of indirect nerf, right? Because they don't really care about the deer packs and professional scouts. It just so happens they matched up against a civ that might not care as well. But VortiX has a different story. He will be going for that in Feudal Age. So he's not going for that super, super quick Ayubid fast castle. He's going to try to do something.
Yeah, we're getting Ayubid Pro Scouts in.
You know, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. Absolutely not. I mean, for how good professional scouts is, I don't really care what civilization you're playing. It seems to be pretty okay and pretty good. You get one deer, it ends up paying itself off. So, you know, whatever.
Yeah, definitely not a bad technology to get. Issue is, though, VortiX immediately queues up 3 scouts. There's already the first longbow out on the field. Beasty is also in the economic upgrades behind all of this. So it looks like it's going to be setting himself up for like a sustained push. Okay. Some of the longbows scouts are getting cancelled. He's going to get some horsemen in. Barracks is being dropped behind all of this as well. Beasty did scout out the stable, so that's the reaction that he's going to go for. Villagers pull back over to the sheep. Archer's going to be in queue now, so looks like we are just going to have this little bit of a feudal age showdown coming in here, potentially.
Practically, the sheep battered. I can't believe it. He's took down. He's going to be getting a little bit of mutton, VortiX is. And you know what's nice? I mean, obviously, he did get professional scouts. You're seeing those scouts take those carcasses away. He was at a rather fortunate spawn to do this because he had a deer pack in the back that was always going to be safe. He has one to the western side, which also is. So Cliffside seems like a pretty good professional scouts just because you have some deer packs that are relatively safe. And just because of the cliff that's there, it makes a little bit of a natural barrier.
You say that, but sometimes your deer can also spawn very far forward. I'm remembering a game where, I'm not sure who it was exactly, I think it was Anatent, like he took his opponent's deer and lured them all the way over to his base. Horsemen, they're getting a great trade here. 2 longbows already down. 3rd longbow down. Yeah, that was a great trade. Might lose one of the horsemen there, though. But 3 longbows down, that is definitely a trade that you can take.
That was so good for VortiX. And, you know, I don't particularly think English as this quote-unquote snowball civilization, but if you're going feudal aggression, they kind of are. You need that longbowman critical mass, right? You need to get some spearmen that's going to be able to protect those longbowmen. So taking out a couple of them, making sure that critical mass gets delayed a little bit, making Beasty back up so VortiX can safely get some of those deer carcasses. I think this is bigger than you might imagine. You know, it's only maybe 2 or 3 longbowmen, but it could definitely set a tone here.
Yeah, that much for sure. Beasty, I mean, just the fact that he take like that first fight didn't go too favorably for him. Means not immediately pushing out forward with the longbows isn't causing any idle time. Means that VortiX can still have access to gold. Means that he can also get some economy upgrades in, which Beasty for the most part already has. And that's the great part with English, right? Like even if your opponent has a couple more villagers, the farms, they're gonna go a long way here when it comes to just boosting up your economy so that you're gonna be more even than YSB.
And because those farms aren't a particularly raidable spot. You know, they're right next to the town center. You know, don't get me wrong. I mean, VortiX with his professional scouts too, but you have some of these areas where you have a decent amount of villagers that can be raided if you're from the Iobid side. There's the wood line, there's a gold mine that's in front if those longbowmen get a little cheeky. But we're seeing the Iobids, a feudal-age civilization that you don't necessarily think of them being one, but they're able to keep toe-to-toe with English in terms of military production. And VortiX is also going with units that are a little bit more expensive in the horsemen.
Ooh, nice little raid coming in here. That's going to be one villager going down here for Beasty. I'm not sure if there was some idle time, but VortiX, he's got a 6-villager lead at the moment. Five and a half.
Yeah, and it should be, I mean, based on the actual math and assuming no idle time at all, you would think VortiX would be up by 3, maybe 3.5, depending. You know, obviously there's a couple seconds to give. So having that little bit of extra is obviously going to help you and continue to keep yourself on pace in a militaristic standpoint. Now, Beasty is putting that outpost up right by that middle sacred site. And you know what? I'm telling you, put that outpost up, let the English do that. All of a sudden, all of their units get 20% better.
Yeah, good bit of additional attack speed coming in. Bori getting pulled onto the horseman.
That's a pretty large radius for that boar.
They went some distance.
You might, actually, for that boar, you might want to take about 50 food off because he definitely shed some weight with all that travel. And honestly, good for that boar. You know, I feel like he was looking to go for some weight loss for some time. Now, Beasty is going to be trying to push the issue here on that gold mine to the north. That is not safe. However, Crackety, very quickly, if we pan to the north side, there is a very nice and safe gold mine right there. So he's going to be able to get all of the gold he needs, maybe for a little bit of upgrades as he's continuing to Iron Under Mesh. And the Sealed Arrow is going to be completed, so that's going to help him against those longbowmen. But with this forward tower up,
yeah, he's starting to push in deeper and deeper, gets another outpost in. And, I mean, if you secure this position right in front of your opponent's landmarks, up against the Iobids, as the Iobids, you're facing a similar problem that you might with the, with the Abbasid. You only get 2 landmarks.
I think, did that paling scramble your brain? Because I think it did for me a little bit, too. Because those, I mean, don't get me wrong, those palings are absolutely excellent. As soon as the longbowmen move, obviously the palings go away, but just making sure you don't get horses surrounding you is obviously going to be helpful. Now, it could be potential even for Beasty if he wants to continue to be aggressive to get siege engineering for some rams, maybe take down some production, but VortiX is going to be trying to raid the reinforcements. And if you're playing against an English aggressive player in feudal, remember, their units aren't exactly mobile, so you have the potential to take down some of those reinforcements and you don't get that death ball at the back. And that tower does go down on that north side. Well, it doesn't go down, actually. It doesn't go up. And because of that attack speed not being there, that villager ends up getting lost from Beasty. That's pretty devastating. Without that tower, you end up kind of stalling out a little bit. He's going to pull another villager with 12 wood in its pocket to try to use that wood, I would imagine, to build that outpost. And we always talk about, you know, being offensive as English. I'm sure a lot of people in the lower elos, maybe gold, maybe platinum, you're seeing a lot of aggressive English players. And if you're able to stop that tower, you can see Beasty, he doesn't want to, unless his units are glowing, he doesn't want to take this. So he's backing up to his tower, right? That villager getting its short bow out, but it will be dead if it doesn't pay attention. Ends up escaping with its life, going back into the outpost. Horsemen, there might not be enough here. I'm thinking Beasty might have that critical mass of longbowmen to take him out.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, there's a good couple of archers out. 20 longbows compared to 27 archers. The spearmen, they're going to go down rather quickly now. And that is going to allow the horsemen to finally start taking the engagements that they want to here.
Yeah, because they definitely want to go in on those longbowmen. But the thing of it is, I mean, there's still enough spearmen to do something, right? You take a look. I mean, there's still 5 or 6 of them. And now there's only 5 or 6 horsemen left. Doesn't have to worry about the horsemen per se.
Yeah, I mean, some of the archers, they're not actively focusing that, like, one remaining spearman here. So that spearman was working overtime. But overall, this is still a very, very good trade for VortiX overall. Like, the numbers are very low. Beasty isn't looking for an age up anytime soon. More horsemen are coming in. There are more archers out there. And you look at the military count. After everything's said and done, VortiX push Beasty outside of the middle, outside of his base, reduce the army mass. He's in a good spot right now. Both players got economic upgrades. Grant Wheelbarrow's missing. We don't have horticulture. Grant, that's not as important when you're working with the deer that you still have from the pro scouts. VortiX in a good spot.
And now I want to see what VortiX does after this. And I think this is the play that is really good from VortiX. Look at his resource on the top right part of your screen. He's got almost enough to hit the Castle Age button in terms of food, and his gold he's already got there. So he's going to have the ability to go up to Castle Age way before Beasty does. To be honest, I thought VortiX was going to send it. I really did. We saw the first 3 games. I thought he was going to go in, and then the English were going to carve him up because of the defensive civilization that they are. Choosing not to do that, uses the tech advantage and be superior into Castle Age. He's going with the dervishes and that culture wing. Going to be able to get a little bit of healing, getting those relics, and some spicy, heavily armored units like, I don't know, maybe a Gulam or 2.
Yeah, Gulams definitely would get the job done here. A lot more health than your typical run-of-the-mill men-at-arm. And in general, I think you just don't want to make Camel Lancers, mainly because your opponent already has Spearmen out, and like Camel, that's the one unit that your opponent can counter. Yeah, that is the one unit that your opponent can actually actively counter when they're in feudal age.
Oh yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, even, and he's going to continue to go into Horsemen a little bit because while you're aging up as the Iabids, obviously the House of Wisdom is doing it, right? You are not. So you have the ability to get some Horsemen, go on some raids, but you even have a potential, I mean, just get the Archer upgrade. Having veteran Archers is going to be really good. Now, Beasty is starting to get a couple Men-at-Arms, but Feudal Age Men-at-Arms, veteran Archers could still kind of take them apart. VortiX is still trying to find some deer over here for professional scouts. Spearman finding that back gold, but isn't a very raidable area. And Beasty's now at a time when he wanted to be offensive and close this game out. He's continuing to play defensively and give up a little bit of map control.
Ooh, he's pushing forward, but there aren't any Spearmen on the right side. VortiX, I mean, could still be a fight that he could take, but doesn't look like he wants to take it. 8 villagers ahead at the moment. Age up about to be coming in. This is not a fight that he wants to take right now. Now that the units are consolidated and he is on his way to Castle Age, just wait, get your upgrades in, and then you can take any fight you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially because with Beasty, some of those towers, those English towers were coming up as Beasty's starting to move his army north. Now, again, the mobility might not be there. Beasty is definitely pressing the issue. He doesn't want those castle upgrades to come out. Veteran Archers is going to be the first one that VortiX actually clicked, but a decent amount of his Archer mass is starting to go down. He's got about 15 Archers, 3 in the queue, and oh no, he's going for Camel Lancers. Might this be the issue for VortiX? Maybe he doesn't get that power spike we so desperately need.
There's not that many Spearmen out at the moment. We're up to 6 Spearmen. And an interesting interaction, actually, between the Spearmen and the Camel Lancer is when Camel Lancers brace, or rather when Camel Lancers charge into a bracing Spearman, unlike Knights, they don't get stunned.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm not the one that implemented it.
Right. No. You're just the messenger, and I know better to shoot the messenger, but that kind of upsets me, actually. But now it gives me a newfound appreciation of Camel Lancers, and maybe I'll use that in my next Iabid game. So big shout out to my co-caster Crackety for having all of the knowledge that we desperately need as we navigate throughout this series. Now in this game number 4, VortiX is the only one in Castle Age, so he's going to be using those heavily armored units. Some horsemen, some Camel Lancers are going to get around. Men-at-Arms are doing their best to maintain the front line, and they're actually starting to keep these horsemen at bay. He doesn't have anything for the Camel Lancers, however. Horsemen going to be able to get a surround around the backside, around that stone. Longbowmen don't have that critical mass anymore. This is a cleanup, Crackety.
It does indeed look like a cleanup. Beasty not on his way to Castle Age yet. In fact, very far away from it. With this cleanup, VortiX, he can now dive through. Doesn't have Pierce Armor level 2 yet in. But these armored units still are going to take a lot of reduced damage here from these longbows. Only 14 remaining. This spells trouble for Beasty now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Beasty wanted to take that before the upgrades came in, and then the upgrades came in, right? And he was in that back, like, gold mine area. He doesn't necessarily have the mobility, and I think this is a lot of things that English players might do, is they go into these areas where they think villagers are going to be, but they can't get themselves out of it because of the lack of mobility, and I think that's what happened. BC is continuing to make units. He's adding some spearmen. His longbowmen are trying to take down the archers, but he doesn't have a spearman, too many of them, to take down all of these heavily armored camel lancers. He's going to need that town center to help him out.
Lancer, couple of spearmen trying their best, but it's only one out on the field at the moment. BC's got a couple more in queue. But it's only trickling, and you can't just afford to just trickle them at this moment in time. VortiX, I'm perplexed that we don't see +2 Pierce Armor coming in so far, but he is getting all of the relics behind this. He has that big villager lead at the moment. This still looks very much favorable for VortiX, but I feel like we might be getting into the territory once again where he's giving Beasty a little bit too much time.
You know, he definitely, he's giving Beasty a little bit too much time. I think my devil's advocate argument for you is why, like, you're pushing into an English base, right? I get it. You have some armored units, but time and time again, you see situations where an English army gets absolutely wiped out, and that's cool. You wiped it out. But now there's nothing you could do about it, because of all of the defensive advantages that English has. So VortiX is kind of treading water a little bit, trying to make sure he has enough units. And now he can just sit with these longbowmen, with these spearmen all the way in the back. He has enough outposts, hopefully, to house all of those villagers. He's going to need the town center to help him out with that machine gun on top of it. This VortiX can't push this. There's nothing he could do while Beasty can go up to castle.
If only there was a single type of unit that could deal with both ranged units, buildings, do good against melee units as well. Maybe something that doesn't even cost food. Maybe something that just costs wood. Maybe something that you can make out on the field.
I love that. I love that idea. It's exactly right. One of those crispy manganiques is what you're talking about, right? Gonna be able to shoot your big flaming balls of fire, take down a lot of those farms and what have you, but VortiX is not going for that. He's not slowing down. He's not waiting at all. He wants to take it. He realizes that Beasty isn't feudal, and he thinks he has that tech advantage to try to do something about it. But those camel lancers, with all of the spearmen that are here, can't get in there. The veteran archers are doing the best they can to try to take down those spearmen, and granted, they did a good job.
There aren't that many remaining, and now +2 Pierce Armor is in. This is the point in time where the Camel Lancers, they can dive, when they can be that meat shield. You see the TC firing on those Camel Lancers, and their health bar just isn't moving all that much. Archer count is getting lower and lower, though, but the Spearmen are completely cleaned up, and now the Camel Lancers, probably still can't end it all, but, it's idle time achieved. He's trading out against the villagers, and overall, just keeping Beasty in an uncomfortable position. Now we need the manganiques in.
Yeah, I think
just a couple, just a couple. 1, 2, and you start taking those farms down. Maybe 3. You know what? Go for 4, 5, 6 is the last offer.
Maybe like
7.
Yeah, maybe a 7. Absolutely. VortiX is going to charge in again with those camel lancers right on those English wheat fields. Veteran longbowman now coming in for Beasty. He is getting his second ranged damage upgrade. Villagers are even pulling their bows out because they are just sick of this.
Once the short bows come in, that's when you know, okay, English, they're being pushed to a very uncomfortable position now. Actually causing a little bit of a pathing nightmare here for those poor Camel Lancers. They're even hiding inside of the berry bushes. Yeah, the longbows, they're doing their best to survive, but more and more villagers go down. Almost a 20 villager difference here. Even more Camel Lancers coming in. Beasty, he doesn't have food. He doesn't have food in the bank. He can't make any more units. At King's Palace was maybe a little bit too greedy. I feel like maybe if it was a white tower, he could have the potential to restabilize. We get a market in as well. Just trying to get more spearmen out. But you just can't get VortiX out of his base anymore.
And it's only these 1 or 2 Camel Lancers, right? Now they're going to start to go down a little bit. VortiX, obviously with that military lead, you could see his resources that he is accumulating, over 1,000 and just about every major resource coming here. So he's going to be able to continuously push this issue. Those 1 or 2 Camel Lancers, you might be thinking, hey, I mean, maybe they didn't do too much to create a little idle time, but then went down. But he could continuously make these. He just had a copious amount of resources, Crackety, and now it's all gone. He's going with Manjaniques, continuing with Archers, continuing with Camel Lancers. He's like, hey, if my opponent isn't doing anything different, why should I?
I'm not sure if VortiX didn't capture that third Sacred Site or if it's already been decapped at one point by Beasty. But he is getting just a lot of gold in completely passively behind this. This is why he's been able to afford just so many Camel Lancers. And now look at all of these houses, all at the same spot. Fire raining on them now.
Yeah, this is the... if you're an Ayubid fan, you're loving this. Oh, the lumber camp is even taking stray hits. These houses are going to start burning rather quickly if they haven't already. And Beasty, he's not really anywhere close in terms of population cap or getting supply cap or what have you. But just this gives you pressure. This gives you the issue of, hey, if I don't do anything, I'm definitely going to die because of these Manjaniques. VortiX is going to be able to take a couple Camel Lancers over there on the western side to create a little bit of disarray for him as those fields get idled again. Beastie starting to go into these crossbowmen out of the Council Hall, which might be good against those Camel Lancers, but still got nothing against those Archers.
And slowly but surely, the population space for Beastie is dwindling, now down to 70. Builds another house up to 90, but there's still a lot of houses that could be going down. He's going to be pop-capped in just a little bit here now.
Man, I mean, and these longbowmen that are here, I mean, there were 7 shooting at a Camel Lancer on the south side. They're shooting marshmallows at the thing. You know, like there's nothing that Camel Lancer is going to be able to deal with. Now, hopefully, Beastie gets enough crossbowmen to try to take this. He's using some men-at-arms as well to create a little bit of firepower. But VortiX is going directly for that King's Palace. He's like, hey, you went greedy with this second town center with the King's Palace. I'm going to make sure it doesn't pay off.
Manjaniques, fire shots. Well, not shooting onto the longbows, but he can change that. Next volley's coming out. We see the villagers getting pulled, but the GG comes in. Beast the entire military cleaned up, and VortiX, he gets a point on the board. Could this be the reverse sweep, Tim?
Hey, it just might be. All you need is to get on the board. And then all of a sudden, the tide might just shift into your favor. And VortiX now with it on the board. You can see the resources that he was able to get with the amount of resources. Obviously, the amount of idle time was tremendously in favor of VortiX as opposed to Beastie scurrying his villagers all over the place. But I think it was that beginning, you know, losing a little bit of units in the beginning, not really having that coordinated push that we saw from Beastie in Feudal Age. He really couldn't set that tone on Cliffside as the English, which we know that they really want to do. But because this is a 3-0, maybe this is a throwaway.
Maybe so. But you know what definitely isn't a throwaway, or why it doesn't really make sense for it to be a throwaway? After the 4th game in the best of 7, we're getting a redraft.
Oh my God. So if you thought that we were going to see some lesser picked civs, that redraft, yeah, that redraft is going to come in hot. And we might be able to see some civs that we have already seen. Take a look at some of these bands. Order the Dragon banned on both sides. Zushi banned on both sides. HRE banned on both sides. So actually quite similar in terms of the bands that they were looking for. So on this map on Lakeside, what you've seen so far in the casting booth, Crackety, what kind of civilizations do you expect pro players to pick on this one?
I'm thinking if we get to Himeyama, it's probably going to be Mongols from VortiX. Next up is going to be Lakeside. Lakeside, I could be convinced that VortiX would pick French. It is French. So we're going to see French up against Japanese from Beastie. Interesting.
Now, this is a quote-unquote hybrid map. Lakeside obviously plays differently, right, than something like a Four Lakes or, you know, like a Boulder Bay of sorts. But on Lakeside, or even just land maps in general, French versus Japan, how do you feel about that matchup? I'm very curious to hear your opinion.
Well, it's a kind of a mixed bag, I want to say. Mainly because Japan, they get some of the strongest knights in the game. But on the other hand side, French get the strongest crossbows in the game.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a take and give. I don't think, unless you go for the Royal Institute, you're going to have trouble keeping up with the Japanese cavalry. You might be able to deny the charge, but you're not going to be able to take the most, like the most cost-effective engagements just due to the bonus health that the knights would get. I think honestly, like if you just get a good enough amount of crossbows in, like what can your opponent do against crossbows? Yumi's doesn't feel great. You go on a Bagacious, crossbows or the Arbaletry, they get +5 melee armor. This could be a very tough one. That much is for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, come on.
Are we doing him like that?
Yeah, we don't. Come on now. He just won a game. Don't do this to him. The poor guy. You know? Okay, never mind.
This is the good point of view. This is a good point of view. Why did we go back to that?
That was, I mean,
just gotta remind everybody of that mill, of that long trip.
You know, here at EGC TV, we like to think we have a little more class than that. Okay, but yeah, those
you'd think.
Yeah, you'd think. These Ghazi Raiders over there on the south side again just got chewed up by those Donzos, and there were enough. Cal says, "No, we don't." Well, does that? Okay. Well, let's show it again.
Answers
Then.
the question.
You know what? Forget it. Just put it back up there.
Yeah, we're going back to the villages again.
Oh man, now VortiX with this keep tried to get that keep up game #1 as the Delhi, and I saw, I actually saw a decent amount of messages in chat saying, why doesn't he go for village fortresses or that kind of stuff? I feel like he didn't have the time. What do you think? Because like he could have made some keeps, you get village fortresses, you start getting villagers, but while you're doing that, Beasty already has that late game economy and just propels you with 120 military units, and then you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, village fortress, it's an interesting idea overall. You could go for it. I think the main issue here for VortiX was he just didn't invest enough scholars throughout the game. Just not having that many means you're not getting your upgrades in time, like all your feudal age upgrade. I think there was, in general, a little bit of a mismacro situation going on. Oh, look at that. That Order of the Dragon Spearman, that cheeky villager kill there early on.
Yeah, and you might not think it's that big of a deal, but think about now 2.5 to 3 minutes into that game, this thing goes down.
Hit.
As that, oh my God, as it lands. Watching them bleed out, we need that. We need a little bit of gore in this game. I want to see one of those ranged units bleed out. But anyway, those 2.5 to 3 minutes with that villager going down, think about how many resources a villager gathers in 20 minutes, right? How big of a difference that is.
It is. It does add up quite a bit. Like one villager gathers roughly like 40 resource per minute. So losing one villager there, it just adds up more and more and more. So every time you lose a villager, it actually means so much more than just being like down 50 food at that point in time.
Yeah, it's assuming that the villager does get 40 resources a minute, right? And of course, there's a lot of math into play, assuming there's, resource upgrades, all that kind of stuff, right? But with that villager going down, assuming no upgrades, 40 a minute for 20 minutes, 800 extra resources you could have had in a fight. That's a big deal. And you can see Beasty now trying to get some map control on this one, on this game #4, but there were just too many horsemen here. There was enough firepower with the Camel Lancer. Ended up backing up. Beasty did not come out of his base for the rest of that game. I hate to spoil it for you, but we're going to see a lot of fights now, if there is a replay after this, in the Beasty English side.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that we didn't get veterancy on the horsemen, and like there were still so many remaining there.
Yeah, I was gonna.
They look so good. Whenever they start firing, man, it's like straight out of a movie.
Oh, it's Independence Day. Watching all of them come out, watching those things, and with the area of effect that they have, I've seen a lot of players even use these Manganiques and the fire while taking down ranged units, just because of how big that radius is.
It's interesting because like you can't really repair against the Manganiques. The radius is so big that if you try and repair, your villagers are going to get hit time and time again from those flaming shots as well.
Yeah, and I mean, for how, I want to say cheap, but for the resources that you spend on them, right? It's 400, 200. At that part of the game, you could still get a lot of them. You saw he just built 3 in the blink of an eye, 1,200 wood, completely zapped. But you see a lot of Ayubid where they're getting sacred sites, they're going for that last kind of victory kind of thing, and all of a sudden there's 8 Manganiques there, and you're like, how did you get that? How did you get 3,200 food?
Where did they come from?
Right. Like, what the hell is going on?
They brought the materials with them from home. It's like, you know how sometimes in these movies, those comedy movies, you got like a character, he's getting fired from his job, and he's like taking stuff from the office, and he's like, I brought these things in from home. These are mine, actually. That's not company property. And they're like, yeah, we brought the stuff for the Manganiques from home. This is this is meant to be here.
And, they all do it. Every single one of them, right? I mean, if there was, in that particular analogy, if there was a work refrigerator, it would be stocked full of, I don't know, flaming rocks and wood and stuff. The analogy I didn't really think that through.
Keep
and honestly,
flaming rocks inside the refrigerator to keep them cold.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like how you put paintballs in the freezer. Kind of similar thing to that. Nobody else did that? Okay, whatever. Going into game number 5. How's that for banter? Do you like that, chat? Game number 5. Beasty going as the Japanese on the southeastern side of the map. VortiX as French in the color red, spawning in that northwestern part. So obviously the dock is going to be there, right, out of both sides. And this is a very peculiar map to me, Crackety, because there's only one deep water fish, but that's all anybody cares about.
One is better than none. And apparently for everybody, that is more than enough on this map, because you never see players open up this map without actually going for that water, for that dock play. It's just so tempting. You get so much free resource in, and similarly to how we talked about, like, one villager being worth like 40 resource per minute, just like these fishing ships, they pay off so quickly.
Yeah, and even just in a vacuum, you're talking about the fishing boats, right? If we just focus on the fishing boats, you're exactly right. And they pay off very quickly. But it's also the ability to have your villagers on land go do something else, right? So if you have 3 or 4 of these boats on that deep water fish, you don't need as many villagers on food. You can put them into wood. You can put them into gold. You can even put them into stone. And I think that's kind of why, I'm kind of theory crafting on the fly, to be honest, but that's kind of why we see a lot of sacred site victories on this map in particular.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many resources forward as well. So once you start taking map control, you also like immediately kind of deprive your opponent of resources just by that. And means that for whoever gets the map control here on this map, they're going to be looking to be in a very good spot. Yeah. I like what VortiX is doing here. Like the shoreline fish was pretty far away, so he's leaving a sheep there for his villagers. So he's able to minimize the walking time.
I think it's that French villager, I think it's Jacques' birthday. Because he just got handed a sheep for his birthday. And he's going to be able to harvest that one. So Japanese, in terms of landmarks here, I wanted to touch on this a little bit as we're trying to get there. Going with a feudal age landmark for the Japanese, when you're thinking about something like 4 Lakes, right? You're thinking about Koka Township, getting those shinobi out there, doing some sabotaging. Here, I'm kind of leaning towards Kura, because how much sabotaging are you going to do with a dock that's all the way on the other side of the map?
I mean, sheep isn't immediately going to do like that much here for you, right? As mentioned, you do have that water income coming in for you. Both players looking for the age up now as well behind this. Something that Beasty can afford relatively easily, just courtesy of not needing to spend that much wood on your fishing ships.
It's kind of interesting in terms of the wood economy, I should say, I'll put it in quotes, of both of these civilizations, right? Because with the French, you make a dock, it gives you 10 population space, so you don't have to spend the 50 wood on a house that you otherwise would. So that gives you that little bit of tempo. Japanese, on the other side, you don't need as many villagers on wood to continuously produce the fishing boats. And it just so happens that that ends up winning out in terms of tempo. So that Kura Storehouse is going to be the first one to hit the battlefield at about 3 minutes, 30 seconds. VortiX is going to be quick to follow with the School of Cavalry. Now my question is to you, Crackety, with the Japanese, we know them as being this castle age, fast castle mounted samurai civilization, and that's at that power spike with the floating gate, and the Oroshiru, how much do they even invest into Feudal Age, if at all?
I mean, you definitely want to invest a little bit into water, just because, like, if you lose out on water, it's going to start stockpiling up. And VortiX actually did invest a good bit. Like, just look at how many fishing ships he's got out there on water. 5 fishing ships for this map is actually quite a bit. If we can compare it to Beasty, never mind. It's 5 fishing ships on both sides. It's not that deep.
It's the pun very much intended. That was a good one. I appreciate it. The fishing boats that are there, though, I mean, obviously on the deep water fish, you could always, I mean, I know it's not as efficacious, but you could always just go onto the shoreline fish, wait for the deep water ones to repopulate. There's definitely an ability to do that. Now, VortiX is the first one to actually get to Feudal Age because he spent 9 villagers building that thing, and that knight is already in queue. It takes a little bit less time for those knights to pop out of the School of Cavalry, so maybe we'll see some firepower. Maybe we'll see Japanese struggle.
I love the macro behind this. VortiX, he's so good with the macro for these like early time builds, because not only is he able to immediately for a knight, he's also able to immediately get a Hulk out as well. Mind you, the French, they actually do get a discount on their... I'm sorry, it's not a Hulk, it's a Warhawk. With a C.
It's a what?
Warhawk with a G at the end. It's a G at the end. See, yeah. It's a Warhawk.
We let anything
this
on
game
EGC these days, let me tell you. This is just unbelievable.
This game is putting me
well,
into
I
awkward
never.
spots. You would never say that. You would call it what it is. A medical term.
Oh, my God. Now, really like what Beasty did with these walls here.
That's the first villager. Oh, he's not committing to it, though. He could go for it again. Fight on water at the same time, though.
Yeah, because we see an arrow ship from Beasty and that Warhawk
ship
from VortiX.
Reaction.
The demo ship will take it down if it ends up getting there.
Reaction. He's using the ability. So the Warhawk gets a lot faster, actually, outmaneuvering that demo ship. Wow. That was a fast Warhawk.
That was a fast cog. Absolutely. Yeah. Look at it. Dodge, duck, dip, diving, and dodging away from that demo ship.
Fast. Are we getting a naval emplacement in as well?
Yeah, really like that from Beasty. I mean, obviously, as Japan, you get a little bit of that passive stone, right? So it's going to be a little difficult to take that dock down. Once it starts firing at you, it's going for the arrow ship instead of that big cog. It's going to end up walking the opposite direction. But what's nice is VortiX has one of everything. He has a Springle chip, he has an arrow ship, he has a demo ship. So anything that comes out is going to prove to be difficult. You know, anything that comes out from Beasty, he's going to be difficult to try to take down one of the other ones. So VortiX, he does
as well.
Yeah, he does have that one knight, and he's looking for that food reimbursement. So maybe he's trying to hang out and feel a little bit longer than we thought.
This is nice. This is looking pretty decent here so far. And he does pull 2 fishing ships forward. 2 fishing ships forward means he is going to be able to out-repair. Needs to be careful, though. Demo ship. It's getting repaired. It's getting repaired. Oh, my God. The repair speed. And now it's walking forward. That's going to be enough to take it down. Springle ship. One more shot. Another one more shot. One more, another shot. There it is. Couple more shots.
Man, you swear they made that harder than it had to be. For sure. But now, at least with those 2 boats getting pulled, don't get me wrong, this Warhawk is going to get repaired, but it costs a decent amount of wood to do it, Crackety.
Yeah. Behind this, like Beasty, he's firmly set now on trying to get to Castle Age. Granted, VortiX, he did invest a lot of resource into this. He's desperately trying to take this archer ship down, actually. You can't just leave the archer ship alone, because then it might harass you in your own food economy. So definitely does have to take that one down. Ooh, it could start to try and take down those sheep. It isn't going to reach it.
I mean, this is kind of interesting from VortiX because it looks like he's going for some kind of castle play as well. You know, we talked about how good the Arbalétriers are for the French, especially in this matchup. We kind of theorized what you can do against them. But with the professional scouts being cheaper, all of his eco technologies being a little bit cheaper, and with Pro Scouts only having those 1 or 2 naval ships, I kind of expected VortiX to meet him here in the Castle Age, but that's not going to be the case. Beasty's going to be going up with that floating gate, suspending that gate in midair, 10 villagers on it. And we're going to see that super high-powered mounted samurai hitting that battlefield.
Beasty's investing into some more demo ships, so has 2 of them out on the field. VortiX, I'm not sure if he's got an immediate reason to pull back, but he does pull back from this now. Actually seeing additional stable come in, so he's very close to being able to age up as well. I'm guessing with a stable play, it only makes sense to be a Royal Institute, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking he kind of needs some firepower to deal with those mounted samurai, and that's exactly what he does. He goes up with that Royal Institute. Now, don't forget, we talk about Royal Bloodlines over and over again for the Royal Institute, and it's right. It makes those knights pseudo-imperials, what I like to call them, because of the fact that they get all of that extra health. But you have a potential for the Royal Institute to even do things like get crossbow stirrups with the arbaletriers, so it's not just knights you got to be worried about.
Yeah, that's true. It's not just the knights, but we don't have any archer ranges yet. Institute's still being worked on. Do we even have a stable yet in for Beasty? I'm not sure if we've got a stable in. There's nothing in queue yet for him, so I'm guessing stable is only just now being built. This is gonna make up for the time. Oh. Okay. We're getting Onimusha in. That's interesting, but Onimusha aren't that great against horsemen. And the horsemen will also benefit from the bloodlines.
Yeah, that's what's kind of weird with this, right? Because you're thinking these Onimusha are like, oh, this is the unit, right? That's going to stop your knights, and these knights are going to veteran status, so that's really going to be able to do it. But then you see those horsemen being able to come out, demo ship getting some good hits on both of those warcogs. Only one of them will be able to limp its way back to the dock, so he's still safe in terms of food. This is where the Japanese kind of shine, especially on hybrid, because they have a lot of these super expensive food-heavy units. And then once you have the ability to get some fish, the Cura storehouse around you provides a little bit of help as well. All of a sudden, you have so much more than your enemy. So basically, what I'm guessing, Crackety, is VortiX is going to see those Onimusha, or at least scout the archery range, end up doing something else. He's already going into Arbaletrier.
Do have Arbaletier coming in. Also monks from VortiX, so we'll want to contest those relics out there. We also have a stable coming in now for Beasty, so maybe we're getting a composition based off Onimusha as well as knights. In which situation, I think VortiX should definitely start war immediately. It's the transmission. We see the walls come in.
Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. Because those Onimusha, they do have the mobility. They can really get in there. And look at how much they do against these Royal Knights. They really pack a punch. And what's great about them, even though they are a little bit more expensive, but they're going to be able to track them down. It's not like most crossbowmen that are on foot. You're going to be able to go travel and take some of these down. Really good against pro scouts as well, because you're going to be able to pepper those scouts down with no armor whatsoever. So Beasty, looking like that's going to be the choice for him for now. VortiX is continuing to queue knights, though.
Oh, he's going into archers next. I don't like that. I don't like the archer switch up from VortiX. I think he should honestly just stick with the Arbaletier.
Yeah, and even, I mean, or just horsemen too, right? I mean, until you see a mounted samurai, and maybe you expect it, you know, those archers aren't going to do much against the mounted samurai either. So yeah, I'm kind of scratching my head on this as well.
Yeah, it feels a little bit odd. No relics secured in yet for VortiX. He does have a lot of monks out on the field, but yeah, this is not looking good for him when it comes to the relic count here. Another monk is getting caught off guard there as well.
Now there is a mounted samurai trying to take down that French monk. He's going to be doing some Wololo. You better back up. A lot of those units. One knight goes down in the crossfire. One Onimusha gets converted and then instantly gets killed because of his transgressions.
That's only fair. Sheep, a little bit of a sheep conversion here coming in as well. Yeah, that's all the scholars. VortiX, he lost all of his scholars now. This doesn't feel good. BC, he gets all of the, literally all of the relics in. At least all the relics on his side and the middle. There's always one safe relic that you get on this map.
Yeah, and honestly, I've really, from Beasty, just because of the units that he's making, right? He's making Onimusha, which are 60 gold. He's making Mounted Samurai, which are 110, right? So you're going to need a lot of gold. Those relic... I'm sorry?
We only got one Arbaletier out at the moment. This is so strange. Like, you deal well against the Onimusha as well. You just deploy the Pavisa, and then you're gonna be in a fine spot.
Yep, exactly right. That Pavis gives you +5 of that ranged armor, so it would be unnecessary for you to take this one. Royal Knights trying to get on a little bit of an engagement. Maybe those archers are going to be able to take a little bit of deflection off, but they are targeting these Onimusha. They just have the mobility to get out of there, Crackety.
Yeah, surprisingly good trade still. There weren't quite enough mounted samurai in. I mean, I don't know, maybe VortiX knows this better than we do.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be. And what's nice is, I mean, VortiX, his knight count is always going to be on the higher side because of not only with the fish, but he's going to be able to pump them out very quickly out of that school of cavalry. Don't see Royal Bloodlines out of him yet. Actually, Crackety, the Royal Institute just looks like a very fancy, expensive building because I don't see a single technology that he researched out of it.
He doesn't have the gold for it. He just switched over to the gold mine in the back of his base. Beasty, he's not going to have any gold issues here. He's actually now switching into Horseman. Now we're starting to get into a little bit of a troublesome territory, I want to say, for VortiX. He's got a lot of resource in the bank behind all of this as well. So I think he wants to save up for Royal Bloodlines now. I think that's going to be the next upgrade that he'll get in.
Yeah, and you know, and he just clicked this, so very astute observation, Crackety. You know, with the French going up with that Royal Institute, man, you need a lot of gold. You need the veteran upgrades, you need all of those expensive upgrades, and even though they're discounted, they're still Imperial upgrades. So that Royal Bloodlines is 490 gold. Plus, if you want to get things for ARBs and you want to get blacksmith upgrades, it takes a lot. So VortiX running out of gold at that instance was pretty difficult for him to deal with, but still ahead on the military count. It's just how much quality is that count?
And another scout gets denied here. Beasty's pumping out a lot of military at the moment. The horsemen should do quite well up against the archers. The knights are going to be great against them, though, especially when you get that Royal Bloodlines upgrade in. The question in the room is going to be how well the Onimusha can deal with the knights, while also themselves getting focused down by the archers.
Yeah, I think there's gonna have to be picture perfect micro out of this one, right? So now with Beasty having the sacred sites, he's the first one to get them. He's going to make VortiX be on the offensive. It's very interesting for the Japanese as we're seeing those Onimusha, those horsemen, those bannermen start to protect that sacred site. Beasty has to go with a lot of outposts because remember, in the Japanese, there's no castle. You don't get keeps. You get castles in Imperial Age.
Or, you know, you build a forward TC, but that typically doesn't feel too good. Royal Bloodlines now gonna be coming in, so suddenly these knights are a lot more tanky than they used to be. Spring on placement is in. Decap attempt is coming through. Is this gonna be a fight that VortiX takes? It looks like he wants to. Archers pushing past, don't want to engage against the horsemen. Facing off against the Onimusha. It's doing a good job on the back line. There actually aren't enough archers here from the looks of it. Yeah, the archers are getting cleaned up against the Onimusha.
And I think, you know, that Springald upgrade ends up being a pretty valuable resource. You're able to take down most of those archers. If not at one hit, you have an Onimusha that might be able to pick them off. A very convincing fight for Beasty as these Royal Knights are going to go down as well.
GG gets cold.
And VortiX is done with this. He's not going to have it anymore. Series goes to Beasty 4-1.
I feel like this was one of those situations where just the army composition was a little bit off. Like, if we had crossbows there with the Gambison upgrade, you get 5 melee armor on them. Suddenly horsemen don't do that much anymore. It's difficult to call in these kind of situations, that much for sure. I'm still surprised by the archer play.
Yeah, I was too, especially because of how easily those horsemen were able to get a surround on them. You know, and don't get me wrong, I mean, the horsemen, we always talk about them not packing a punch, but that little bit of extra damage against range units plus the bannermen, they end up doing a pretty good job. And it's not like VortiX had things like spearmen, right? You couldn't stop the horsemen surround. Yeah, you could send your knights in there or whatever, but they're probably not going to create that big defense that you really need. So with Beasty taking this one, 4-1, we're going to see all of really, we're doing that again with the villagers.
He's really
Thank God.
doing them like that.
We already saw this from game number 1 a few times where you see those guys, the Raiders, getting chewed up by the Donzos on the south side. Those archers not really peppering the units that you want them to pepper. And that ended up being, for Beasty, he was able to lick his wounds and come back in this one with that Malian's kind of late game-ish economy power spike. It really set the tone.
This was such a brutal game for VortiX. Like, he felt like he had such a commanding lead, and I thought so too. In Feudal Age, I feel like if it just wasn't for that age up, he could have continued piling on that pressure and actually taken the lead in the series. But, you know, when you lose these type of games, it also affects the games afterwards. It kind of gets to your head. It deflates the mentality a little bit, the morality. These kind of situations, they can really make or break a series.
Oh, absolutely, because there is such a thing as setting a tone. You know, there's momentum involved, you know, whether it's sports, esports, any kind of competition, momentum is definitely that factor that certainly exists. Beasty doing a really good job with those horse archers, creating that little bit of idle time from VortiX, and you can see that Order of the Dragon Gilded Spearman was definitely the MVP of that game.
Yeah, it's so much value to getting in, and it's like the biggest weakness of no IO China is that you're very weak to early Dark Age aggression, because suddenly you don't have that Imperial official to supervise a barracks, you don't have that Imperial official to securely get your gold in. So if you're getting denied of gold, worst case, you don't have enough gold to actually get an Imperial official out.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, that's the greed that we play with nowadays. You know, trying to get to pro scouts and trying to get all of this, exploiting the map's resources. It seems like a Dark Age play, and this is something that I'm kind of learning as we're watching a lot of these games unfold, because of the initial expense of professional scouts. Getting some Dark Age disruption could really, really benefit you.
Yeah. Behind this now, while we're looking at the replay, we are trying to, or rather, we are getting Beasty in for an interview now. Winner's interview after this set. I definitely want to get his opinion now on the next set that we get going on here, because we will be seeing Anatan versus Marine Lord coming up right after this one.
Yeah, that's going to be a very good series as well. You have one of these quote-unquote up-and-comers with Anatan, who he's been making a name for himself, not only playing on the highest stages, but has a very nice and educating stream to watch. If you are interested in watching Anatan, I would recommend you do so. Marine Lord on the other side, we've known Marine Lord, we've watched him play for years and years. Arguably, I'm going to say very arguably, not to really upset anybody in chat, but arguably the best player. So Anatan's got his work cut out for him.
I think Anatan's got him a little bit quaking in his boots, though, because the last couple of days, whenever I've been online and I checked, Marine Lord has been online non-stop practicing.
And that's, I mean, hey, he's a professional. That's what you got to do when you're doing
anything. It's kind of
anything.
the effort that you got to put in when you want to be the best at a game.
Absolutely. You know, and it just goes to show that that skill and that talent, right, it has to be refined. Marine Lord, obviously, and Anatan, too, all have natural talent in playing this game, but it's about all of these situations and the practice that gives you an upper hand on your opponent. So we're going to be seeing that one coming up. BC did take this one 4-1, and I'm hearing the interview is ready. Crackety, talk to the man.
All right, let's jump into the interview with Beasty now. All right, Beasty, congratulations for your victory up against VortiX. How are you feeling after that one?
Very tired. Thank you. I'm too old. You know, playing for this many hours is very exhausting. Like, these games are very hard, so pretty happy that I won, but yeah, very tired.
Walk me through that first game, because when you were playing Malians up against Delhi, there was this one point in Feudal Age where VortiX was diving your TC, and honestly, I kind of felt like this might be it for you. What were you feeling at that point? I think, okay, maybe you can still come back from that one, or were you also kind of steering at that moment in time?
I think we both played pretty bad that game. Like, you know, like, I was mismicroing so much I couldn't sort my control group, so I was just like, oh god, this is not it, because I was in a really good spot. And then when he was diving in, I was like, no way I'm gonna lose like this, you know, after getting a pretty good lead. No way that I'm gonna just throw it like this, right? But I didn't actually lose many workers. I think I lost maybe 2 or something. So I still have the cow boom, and I actually saw his long distance berries the moment he went on them. But I, like, on purpose, I put my scout to patrol, and I didn't want to, like, yeah, attack it because then I would notify him, right? So every once in a while I would check if he's still idle, and he was, so I just didn't harass it at all. But at some point I had some sofas, and I was like, okay, let's go for it. But yeah, I was worried I threw the game because I feel like I was in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, it ended up being a nice victory, a good lead in there to the series. What's your overall opinion on the series? Granting that, I mean, you talked about as well that you did actually practice with VortiX. What were your expectations going into the series?
I mean, he's very good, like micro player, right? Like he likes to force fights and stuff like that. So that's something that, like in our practice, we were both very aggressive. It's pretty funny because we would do a best of 5 in like an hour, 5 games. Like all the games would be like 10, 11 minutes, stuff like that. So this time around, I just took fights, but I played a lot more passive because I know that, maybe he's not the best against it. So every game I would just build up an army, kind of force small fights, but then just wait for him to overcommit. So I think overall the series was obviously a bit weird because, like I said, we practiced together, but I think I prepared the draft pretty well and worked out.
All right. Looking forward to your next set that you're going to have to play. Who do you think you're going to be up against? Do you think it's going to be Marine Lord, or do you think that Anatan might have some secret strategies up his sleeve?
I mean, I played some games against both, like in tournament and in practice. Like, I think both can win, and I know most people are gonna be like, "No way, Marineland's gonna win that," but I think both players can win. I don't know where Anaten's mindset is, because he might be like, "Oh, I don't know if I can win," and he might try something weird. But I think if Anaten just plays his game, he'll be more than fine. I just hope it's not a 4-0. Just hope they have a couple of more games.
All right, so definitely still anyone's game. Glad to hear it from you. All right, Beastie, thank you so much for the interview. I'm gonna leave you to it now. Maybe also enjoy the games now. I'm definitely sure you're gonna want to pay attention since one of these players is one of those that you are gonna be facing off against next. Thank you so much for the interview, and have a good one, man.
Thank you. Bye bye.